Happy Hump Day, everybody. Welcome to the Sean O'Connell Show. Woo! What a start we had to the Stanley Cup Final. 5-4 victory for the hated Vegas Golden Knights. I still haven't figured out how we're processing the fact that Vegas is in the Stanley Cup Final and now off to a 1-0 lead over Carolina. Of course, plenty of hockey left to be played there. The next game will be tomorrow. We are your home of the Stanley Cup Final and the NBA Finals on ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. Las Vegas, Carolina, 4-4 down to the final few minutes of the game when Tomas Hertl ends up scoring the go-ahead goal. And then in less than a minute left, Carolina desperation mode, empty net. They bring in all the shooters. They bring in all the guys with the big shots. They bring in their snipers, the guys with the accuracy, and they actually got a beautiful look at it. And the broadcast crew did a really, really nice job on the final sequence, the goal that just was turned aside, just blocked by Mitch Marner. If Marner doesn't get in the way, and he actually was trying to get out of the way, is what the broadcast crew determined, because he wanted to let Carter Hart get a good look at the attempted shot and have a clearer picture on where he needed to put his blocker, where he needed to put his glove, whether it was going to be a stick save, etc. And they did a really good job on the broadcast kind of describing for you what would have happened with that shot had Mitch Marner not clipped it with his own knee as he was trying to get out of the way, trying to avoid screening the vision of his goaltender. And ultimately, it does hit him kind of on the back of the knee and trickles aside. And so Vegas avoids giving up an equalizer with Carolina, a man up, empty net. And they win game one in an absolute thriller, 5-4. And in the post-game comments, you hear guys talking about exactly the way you want to hear athletes talking. You know what I mean? It's such a fascinating thing that hockey guys get it at the highest of levels. And the sport the sport lends itself to more democracy, I think, in the dressing room is what we're figuring out. There's obviously stars. There's big-time players. There's definitely guys who are more important to your efforts, and goaltender is probably number one, but even the Vegas Knights, certainly the Carolina Hurricanes, they rely on their third and fourth line guys, not exactly as much as they rely on the top line guys, but they rely on those guys enough that there's just a mutual respect, appreciation, etc. when people are doing what they're supposed to be doing. And there's no room really for the diva behaviors and for guys to be like, I'm not gonna sacrifice my body for this particular win. They all do it. Biggest play. I mean, we talked yesterday with Tom Callahan. Mitch Marner is probably going to win the Conn Smythe. If he has a decent series here, he's going to be the playoff MVP. And he's going to be completing one of the best seasons he's had in an already very impressive career. And he's still the guy that's trying to make the right play. Now, it's a little silly that he was trying to do the thing opposite of what actually happened, but he was trying to do the right thing for his team, and he ended up obviously making a big play, even if it was somewhat accidental. Vegas, once again, more physical in this game. They out-hit the Carolina Hurricanes by almost double digits, and they get the win because of it. So off to a 1-0 series lead in the Stanley Cup Final, the Las Vegas Golden Knights ahead so far in the Stanley Cup Final. NBA Finals begin tonight as well. We are your home of the NBA Finals on ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. We've got a fun show lined up for you. Randall Sullivan wrote a book about the baseball game of the century, the first ever All-Star game. We're going to talk with him in about half an hour. We go between the pipes with Adrian Denny to talk about this Stanley Cup final, about the way things have started for Vegas. There's a lot of things happening in the behind-the-scenes college football world. The Big Ten and the SEC have banded together further in their stance against the current bill set in front of the lawmakers in our land, the bipartisan bill proposed by Ted Cruz and company. The SEC and the Big Ten are jointly opposing that particular, the Protect College Sports Act. Ted Cruz and Maria Cantwell co-drafted the bill. We talked about it a lot yesterday, and the Big Ten and the SEC and said, nope, we don't like this. Now, why does it matter that the Big Ten and the SEC are issuing a co-statement here? Well, obviously you know where I'm going with this, right? These informal alliances become more concrete alliances sometimes, not in the favor of the Pac-12, but these informal alliances can be a bit of foreshadowing, letting people know what the direction of this is headed eventually, where the Big Ten and the SEC try to stay on the same page. Remember, they have not been on the same page as of yet with the expanded college football playoff proposals. The Big Ten wants 24 teams. The Big 12 wants 24 teams. The ACC wants 24 teams. The SEC has been mostly reluctant, and their initial statement was that we want a 16-team playoff, and then there were like 7 coaches at SEC Media Days who were like, well, nobody asked me. Now you got Nick Saban out there sort of campaigning, it seems, for and or against the special interests of college football. Saban obviously is one of the most respected guys in the history of the game, and somebody that I think, by the way, he is speaking in support of the Protect College Sports Act. And Nick Saban is he's one of the voices that people listen to. Now, a lot of folks inside of college football view this as Nick Saban sort of campaigning for a future position as the czar, as the commissioner, so to speak, of whatever college football becomes. And there are plenty of people who don't think that's a good idea. Nick Saban, for me, gets this unique place in college sports because he's the emperor, right? He's Darth Vader. He's the head of the evil empire. He was the face of the SEC and Alabama football, and the sort of like, yeah, we know you guys aren't doing things strictly by the book for decades. Nick Saban was the guy that was sort of, the cool, calm presence, but the figurehead of what ended up being a sort of tiresomely great empire of college football in the SEC, and Alabama was the poster children for that. And for me, that led to Nick Saban being someone that I didn't love at first and still don't necessarily love. But you've watched Nick Saban now that he is not beholden to any athletic director, any commissioner. He's not beholden to parents or recruits in any way. He's in the broadcast world now. He's on College Game Day. He does a great job on College Game Day. He is the new Lee Corso, effectively, although a lot less charismatic, a lot less animated, but he brings that sort of cachet and, quite frankly, even more cachet as a championship-level coach than Corso was ever able to. Here's the thing. Nick Saban is a traditionalist of sorts in college football. Now, it's easy to say, all right, well, of course he's a traditionalist because he's a guy who benefited from the old system and while he didn't appreciate certain comedians joining College Game Day and joking at his expense and the expense of the Alabama football program with certain allegations, and LSU, I should add to that. I think it's safe to say that Nick Saban wants college football to go back to something that looks a little bit more like the game he had success in. And by the way, you can't unring the bell. I've told you many times with many different phrases. We know that you're never going to completely restore the old way of things. And I don't think we should want to. I think we should accept the fact that college athletes deserve some compensation. The college athletes are deserving of a certain amount of autonomy when it comes to transfer and things like that. I don't think that we have best served college athletics by making it free-flowing and limitless transfer. I don't think that we have served college athletes by offering exactly zero consequences for any poor decisions or any lack of forethought when it comes to, well, where do you want to transfer to? Who do you want to play for? Like, we have now erased all of the barriers and all of the things that stop a consequence from happening for these people. We are snowplow parents, all of us, in the college football world. And I don't think that serves the college athlete. I think that's actually a bad thing. And Nick Saban does too. And I think, by extension, the bill that he is supporting, while the SEC and the Big Ten are issuing joint statements against the Protect College Sports Act, it's this push and pull that's happening between very powerful and very influential entities, because now we have figureheads in U.S. government trying to get involved in this. Yes, Nick Saban is campaigning in favor of what Ted Cruz has laid out for us, what several other individuals in the political sphere have decided to weigh in on. But Nick Saban, he testified his support for the Protect College Sports Act, and guess who else was there? Pete Bavacqua, Notre Dame athletic director, who is effectively the commissioner of his own weird little tiny nation-state league. Much like Vatican City is its own political thing, is its own country, Notre Dame is its own country within college football, right? Teresa Gould, who is the commissioner of the new Pac-12. West Virginia President Gordon Gee. And how about this? Utah defensive end Lance Holtzclaw. How about your boy? How about Lance Holtzclaw being the player perspective on what it's like for agents and players dealing with agents, what it's like hearing from people in the portal, what it's like on coaching changes? The athletic leaders, right? So the non-players that we were just talking about were warning everybody that, hey, if there's no federal intervention here, we think of the Protect College Sports Act as being something to protect college football and to protect college basketball, and probably to a lesser extent, we think of softball, we think of baseball, we think of gymnastics at the University of Utah. This bill is designed to try to mitigate spending on the revenue-producing sports, which presumably will reserve some level of income and some level of surplus for gymnastics, soccer, softball, etc. And you go, depending on what school you're talking about, go further down the list of the more and more obscure sports. The Olympic sports, the swimming and divings of the world, are already very carefully, very quietly, and in some cases almost secretively being pushed aside, and those programs are being shut down. Coaches are losing jobs. Assistant coaches are losing jobs. Athletes are losing opportunities, scholarships, etc. And it's done mostly quietly because it hasn't happened to a prominent program yet. It hasn't happened to like a national championship contending volleyball team. It's happened to volleyball teams. It just hasn't happened to ones that you think are relevant. It hasn't happened to a gymnastics team that you care about yet. I think it's amazing that Lance Holtzclaw, I saw Morgan Scally tweeted about this in support of his guy. It's amazing that Lance Holtzclaw was chosen to be the player representative. And honestly, because this is a political hearing, we should be able to track down the full transcript of whatever Lance Holtzclaw was asked and what he had to say. My wish is that you get a player, and Lance, anyone else, right? We prefer that it's Lance because he's a Utah guy. Let the adults in the room, I like to use that phrase frivolously, let Congress, and by the way, it shouldn't be something that lawmakers have to deal with, but we've gotten to that point. Let the adults in the room hear exactly what it's like from a player perspective. Let somebody like Lance Holtzclaw, or even better, let Devin Dampier, because he was such an in-demand kind of guy. Let Bear Bachmeier, because he was getting phone calls from every team in the nation, sit down and say, this is what the landscape is right now. I was expected to pass my tests. I was expected to have a social life. I was expected to be a well-rounded human being, to do my homework, to show up to my workouts, to be accountable to my coaches and teammates, while myself and or my agent and or my dad and or my mom and my brother and my high school coach are all getting contacted by wild assortments of randoms from recruiting directors, from other agents, and saying, this is how much we have for you to do this instead. Your loyalty at BYU or at Utah is, I'm sure, appreciated, but is it worth $2.5 or $3.5 or $4.5 million? Let the student athlete tell the big people, the decision makers, what it's actually like, and make them listen. I don't want it to be a Congress problem. I don't want it to be a Senate problem. I don't want it to be an executive order problem. But that's where we have gotten to with college sports. And we have gotten so far down this road that the Big Ten and the SEC are just like, well, hold on. This is not, we don't want this to be the representation of what we're looking at. And Nick Saban is like, no, I do want that. Do you realize how problematic that is? Remember yesterday we were talking about potential for a salary cap to be introduced in Major League Baseball, and how there were going to be a lot of decision makers and a lot of people that just hated that and some that loved it, and the fans don't really have a voice, but they should have a voice. And it's like, now imagine that Nick Saban was not so long ago the face of all things SEC, and he is testifying in front of Congress in direct opposition to the SEC company line currently. If that is not a snapshot on how disjointed we are in the college football world, I don't know what is. And of course, I'm only talking about the high-profile stories that are coming out right now, because the high-profile stories are the thing. Like, Utah and BYU are unfortunately not in control of their own destiny at this exact moment. You're getting all of these like fan fiction conspiracy theories right now on Utah message boards about how this Otro Capital deal is only about inclusion in the Big Ten and everything's going to be fine because you're going to get invited to the Big Ten. I don't want to talk about that at all. Utah ain't getting invited to the Big Ten tomorrow. And it's not happening in a month. And it might not happen in a year or 5 years or 10 years or ever. You've got to live where your feet are. And right now, where the feet are in all of college sports, but for Utah specifically, and for BYU as a Big 12 partner, and for Texas Tech as a Big 12 partner, where your feet are at this moment right now is on incredibly shaky ground. You are standing on quicksand in the college sports world. And the powers that be can't even decide whether they agree. When you have a collective bargaining, when you have a players association versus the owners, it's the enemy you know, the enemy you know. It's the power structure that you want to fight against. It's the obvious target. Everybody knows the score when those things are happening. Yeah, they can get complicated. Yes, it's a convoluted thing. That process can take time, and sometimes there's work stoppages. We're watching French Open tennis, right? In the French Open, leading up to it, it's just like, hey, we might boycott this tournament because we want more revenue, and the tournament wants to give us less revenue. That's a battle that you know exactly what you're getting. When you get the Lego pack, and there's the guys wearing black are the bad guys, and the good guys are dressed in white, you know exactly what it's supposed to look like, right? You know the battle that you're fighting. College football and college basketball and college sports in general right now, they don't even know the battle that they're fighting. They don't know. You're like, okay, wait, are we fighting against each other? Yes, but also no, because we need to be on the same front. Are we fighting against the television networks that we've given too much control? Yeah, we're fighting against them, but also no, because we need them to provide the revenue that allows us to have these sports and allows the coaches to have their jobs and allows the student athletes to be in demand to earn their money. All right, okay, well, is the fight against the student athletes themselves? Because they're the ones that we now have to share all this revenue with that is making it impossible for us to field the Olympic sports. So is it the student athlete that's the enemy? Well, no, but also yes, because without them, you don't have the sport, you don't have the television, you don't have the show, you don't have anything to give to the consumer, which is me and you. So in that way, they're your teammate. They're your product. They're the stars of the show. But also, they're the ones who are like, yeah, but I want to be able to transfer anytime I want. And I want there to be absolutely no limit or no regulation on where my money comes from and how much money I can have. And we're like, well, hold on a minute, because that hasn't actually served the sport as a whole. And the individuals that make up the sport are like, I don't care about serving the sport. I'm trying to pay bills. I want to pay off grandma's house. I want to make sure that my family's set up. I want to make sure my future is set up. So the athletes are not your enemy because they're your product, and they're your friends because they're your product, but they're also your enemy because that product is too expensive for you right now. Do you see the problem we have in college sports? Collective bargaining is the only solution, but nobody will agree to collective bargaining. And by the way, this College Sports Commission, this Protect College Sports Act is proposing, hey, you know what we definitely need to do? We definitely need to get one of the obvious enemies out of here. We need to give them some level of regulation, and we need to fight against them, because maybe the student athlete isn't our enemy. Maybe they're not our opposition here. It's the agents. It's the random hangers-on. It's the bagmen. It's the go-betweens. Those people we definitely need to do something about. Let's make them registered, like all NFL agents have to be registered, and all NBA agents have to be registered, and all Major League Baseball agents have to be registered. And let's put a cap on how much of a student athlete's earning they can take. No more than 5% of whatever it is NIL-wise that they're able to secure for this student athlete. And so now those power players, and there's a few of them who are powerful, but most of them aren't, are just like, well, no, I don't want limitation put on my earning. And there's some student athletes that are just like, well, wait, what if he can't get registered? He's got a felony. What if my guy can't get registered? He's made me millions of dollars. There's nobody knows who they're punching. It's like a pillow fight in the dark. You're flailing around, and then something hits you, and you're like, oh, crap, what was that? What was that? Oh, that was Ohio State stealing 80% of your important players. That was the University of Michigan coming in and taking half of your coaching staff and 3 of your top 4 recruits. And you're just flailing, what the crap? No, I don't know how to handle this.
It's purely hypothetical, that one.
And in that one, right, you blame the individual when the system is the thing that allows all of this, right? And then if you're the student athlete, you're just like, well, I'm not going to support any change to the system that allows me to have this level of freedom financially and with autonomy on where I can transfer and what I can do. Nick Saban, SEC. If Nick Saban and the SEC can't agree, if Greg Sankey and Nick Saban aren't on the same page, nobody in college football is on the same page.
Wait, the other thing about this is, it goes with the analogy that you're making, OC, is there's just so many fronts to fight this battle of bringing organization and order to college athletics again. Because, like you said very astutely, Nick Saban is probably in favor of resetting everything back to the way it was. But resetting everything back to the way it was, even if it were possible, which it's not, so many inequities with that need to be figured out. And so many issues with the way that was that need to be figured out. Only one of those things is athletes back then not being able to make money off of name, image, and likeness. That's just one of the things. How about something that Nick Saban and any other college football coach is probably not in favor of? How about how coaches can have 10-year contracts and leave after the first year to go to another team? How about that unregulated free agency with coaches that doesn't serve the sport very well?
It doesn't.
Like that,
and I'll tell you why there's never going to be legislation for that is because those contracts, it's just buyouts paid.
Yeah.
Right? It becomes a transaction that ultimately everyone kind of agrees to.
You can't do that with NIL because there's not a contract like that. Yeah.
Well, and they're trying to put those in place, and those are legally challenged. And you've got, I mean, it is bananas.
But I bring that up as the thing that not many people are talking about, just to illustrate. There are so many things beyond the obvious that need to be figured out. There's so many fronts that this battle needs to be fought on that, you end up feeling like, okay, we got this fight against the players getting too much of our money. We're fighting that, okay. Oh, we're getting hit in the back of the head by the agents taking too much of the players' money, or the coaches having unfettered free agency too much, and that's screwing everything up. Like it's insane what the fight that's being asked to fight with college football.
The Protect College Sports bill needs 60 votes to pass the Senate. 60 votes. It is a bipartisan bill. Ted Cruz told ESPN he's confident that legislation can pass. It is one that he thinks, and Nick Saban thinks, and Lance Holtzclaw apparently thinks, and Pete Bavacqua thinks can protect college sports. But the SEC and the Big Ten don't want it. And guess who controls actual college sports right now? What the bill is effectively designed to do is to restore antitrust protections to the NCAA and to any organizations underneath the NCAA, where you say, in the past, you were allowed to suppress salaries, to reduce competitive spending, et cetera, because you were given an antitrust exemption quietly, and now there is no antitrust exemption. Well, this would restore some of that for NCAA sports specifically. And what we're talking about, in most cases, although Texas Tech softball would be the outlier here, in most cases we're talking about putting a cap on spending for student athletes in basketball and football. Athletes are not going to want it. And weirdly enough, while the Big Ten and the SEC out one side of their mouth will tell you they want a cap on spending, it needs to be sustainable, we need to figure this out, they don't want to support this particular legislation because guess what it does to them? It caps what they can do to maximize their advantages over the Big 12, over the ACC, over even, weirdly, in some cases, Notre Dame. It's very telling that the Notre Dame athletic director is here campaigning for something that will cap spending. That means he is hearing from his booster base. He is hearing from his university president. He might be hearing from Rome. He might be hearing from the Vatican. Because remember, the new pope is from Chicago. He might be hearing, like, hey, this is crazy. Notre Dame can't participate in this. It's getting really ugly. I mean, his presence there is very telling. And look, Nick Saban could be fully convicted in his belief. He seems like he is. He brought up some numbers, by the way. Nick Saban said the first year he was at Alabama when they had a collective, there were $2.7 million in the collective, and it went all the way up to $24 million. You know how nuts that is? The arms race is exactly what they're trying to slow here. And if they don't, make no mistake, whether it's the NCAA, whether it's a breakaway organization, whether it's Congress, Senate, the president, the Pope, if somebody doesn't stop this arms race, what happens is non-revenue sports are left in the dust and disappear gradually. And eventually, programs like the University of Utah football program are outpaced, probably gradually, probably over time, are outpaced in a way that makes it a lot less interesting to have college football nationwide. Yikes. Enough ranting for now. We're going to take a break. Randall Sullivan, author of Baseball's Game of the Century, the first All-Star game, is going to join us next. We'll talk about how it came to be, how you can get the book, and his favorite part of writing it. That and more. It's the Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. Welcome back to the Sean O'Connell Show. Welcome in Randall Sullivan, author of Baseball's Game of the Century, the first All-Star game. New book out. Randall Sullivan, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm just fine. Thanks for having me.
I appreciate you coming on to talk about this project. Whenever we have authors on, I always try to get to the root, the how and the why. Why did you decide you wanted to tackle this story, this book about a well-known and already very famous game, about much has already been written? Why did you decide to write this book?
Well, I don't think that much has been written, but be that as it may, I wanted to tell the story of an athletic event, a game that was more than a game, that was played at a moment when the country and the sport really needed a moment of uplift and coming together and seeing something, new happen for the first time. And I don't think there's been another athletic contest in America that was so singular in the moment.
1933. Give the listeners. Most of us were not alive then, so give the listeners some context on exactly, what you were just alluding to. The fact, why the nation needed a game like this at a time like that.
Well, 1933 was the very bottom of the Great Depression. The country had been, and the game of baseball had been spiraling for 3.5 years. It was a country of bread lines and abandoned farms and, people living in tar paper shacks. But the game of baseball was suffering right along with everyone else. There were attendance that dropped by more than half, and most of the tickets being sold were for the cheap seats. So virtually every team was losing money, and quite a few were teetering on the brink of collapse. So something that would revive, interest in the game and the spirits of fans and of, the country as a whole was really welcome.
Was there any vision in the moment that they decided to do this exhibition, that it would spark a yearly contest, that it would spark other sports to have their own versions of this? Or was it truly conceptualized as a one-off event?
It was, and the people there, all the participants, all believed that this was going to be a one-time thing, which made it, especially significant and memorable. There was a lot of doubt whether in the midst of this depression, there would be the fan support if people could afford to buy the tickets and make the effort to get there. And it turned out to be a huge success that the whole country got behind. I don't think there's been any sporting event, there hadn't been one up to that point, that was, as widely promoted and publicized in the national press. So, the anticipation was enormous, and it really lived up to everyone's expectations, and especially in the, Babe Ruth, basically on his last legs, rose to the occasion and, was the star of the game.
I'm fascinated by the fact that this was the first, and the fact that at that time in sports, you still could have firsts. We're now in 2026. It seems like it's kind of hard for, anything that happens to be, this is the first time we've ever seen this, or this is the first time that a player has done this or accomplished this. And, telling these stories and reading stories of when, it truly was unprecedented. It is things that had never been seen before. And, you weren't there, Randall, at this game. So as you were going back and trying to capture the exact sentiment and what it was to witness something like this for the first time, how did you do it? Where did you go? Who did you talk to? What did you find?
Well, things have been, the digital age has, certainly been great for people doing any kind of historical research, because if you know where to look, you can find, every newspaper of every day of that time and how it looked from all those different angles. But what I really appreciated was that baseball, maybe more than any other single aspect of American life, has had a, dedicated ranks of historians who have, documented the game in such detail. And it's literally at your fingertips. You can put in a date and a game and find, virtually what happened pitch by pitch, because they've put it all in the record. And I was just astounded by, what these baseball historians had already done, most of them not professional. The Society for American Baseball Research is just an astounding organization that, I owe them a huge debt of thanks for all that they, curated for me.
Randall Sullivan, our guest here on the Sean O'Connell Show. He wrote a book, The First All-Star Game, America's Game of the Century. Really something you should check out from the sports historian perspective and from the history of the United States perspective, because the other backdrop here, right, was that Hitler had taken power in Germany, and this was at the World's Fair in Chicago. Was there not a swastika on display on a Zeppelin or something at the World's Fair in Chicago?
Yeah. I mean, Hitler became Chancellor of Germany and Roosevelt became President of the United States about 2 weeks apart. So it was, incredible time. But among the many, foreign delegations was a giant airship that was sent by Germany, and it did indeed have a swastika emblazoned on it, and it came in low over the fair, and literally cast a shadow over the entire midway. But people were celebrating. It wasn't perceived at the time that Germany and Hitler and even Nazism was any great threat to the world. He was just somebody like Roosevelt, who was a great talker, who was trying to revive a depressed country.
It paints such an interesting picture in my mind, whether it actually happened this way or not. But I see in my mind's eye, like Babe Ruth at the plate in an all-star game, and somewhere off in the distance, that airship, and just like the juxtaposition of sport and politics and sport and world stage has always happened. But man, what a time for it to be taking place at the World's Fair in Chicago. From a Chicago perspective, I mean, we're out here in Salt Lake City, and I don't know if people have family there like I do. I don't know if people feel any kind of connection to the city of Chicago, but it is one of our great sports town in the United States. And, it feels like the city itself, maybe, you tell me whether it benefited from this game or whether this game helped establish Chicago as one of the places we make synonymous with American sport. What was the city's role in this?
It certainly contributed. I mean, the World's Fair was huge for Chicago. Chicago was sort of stuck with the World's Fair. They voted the bond to do it on October 28th, 1929, the day before the stock market crashed. So in this wave of enthusiasm about, America's economic ascendance, they were stuck with this thing in America's economic collapse. But they really rallied and put together a fabulous World's Fair, and by a series of amazing coincidences, which began with the attempted assassination of President-elect Roosevelt. These events triggered, one after another, like dominoes, leading up to this game becoming part of the World's Fair. It almost seems like fate was making it happen when you look back through the historical narrative.
Randall, will you be writing the screenplay for a film adaptation or a television miniseries adaptation of this story? Because there's just so many elements to it. And the cast of characters, just from this conversation, I mean, you could have – it seems like it's a very cinematic backdrop, at least.
I couldn't agree more. I think it would probably have to be a television series, and a couple of people have approached me about it already. The question I always have is who could play Babe Ruth?
We'd have to find someone.
Yeah. But it was quite amazing to me to realize that Babe Ruth and Lou Gehrig and all these players were sharing headlines with John Dillinger and Bonnie and Clyde and Charles Lindbergh and Charlie Chaplin. All of this was, and Adolf Hitler. All of this was, coinciding, and that was the sort of the tableau of the time. And to put baseball in that perspective, personally, I found fascinating. And it was really a fun book to write because it's ultimately an uplifting story. It's about something, that really gave the American people a reminder of how good it feels when everything comes together and people really make something happen in a sort of unified way.
Did you have a deep affection for baseball before you started this project?
Well, I played baseball every summer from 7 to 17, so it's pretty ingrained in my, childhood psyche. And I was one of those people who really liked to read about, the old days and the great players. And I wouldn't say that I had been the steadiest baseball fan. I always watched the World Series, but and usually the All-Star game. But I must say, writing this book really kind of inspired me, in terms of, because it reminded me how thoroughly ingrained baseball is in American history, American culture. There's no other sport that's as deep in the fabric of America as baseball.
What's the next project? I mean, if I go to your bibliography here, you've tackled the first All-Star game, the notorious B.I.G. Tupac feud, the murder of notorious B.I.G., Oak Island and the conspiracies and secrets of Oak Island, Michael Jackson. I mean, you've got this really broad array of things that you've written on, investigated, etc. So is there something that you can give us? Can you give me like a little preview of what may be coming next from Randall Sullivan?
Well, I honestly don't know what the next book is. I'm involved in a television production and a movie development right now, which is sort of consuming my time and attention. I actually I never thought I was going to become a baseball writer per se, but the one book I've been thinking about is actually another baseball story, or a baseball and American history story. But I don't want to give it away because somebody else might take the idea.
Okay, fair enough. I can appreciate that. I've written a couple books myself, not in your world, just science fiction, dumb stuff. But so I always ask this question for people who are listening to this conversation and they want to acquire your book. Where can they get it that benefits you the best? There's not, don't always have the same deal with every bookseller, et cetera. Where is the preferable source of Randall Sullivan writing so it maximizes your earnings, your satisfaction, whatever? Well,
to be quite honest, I make more money if you buy it in a bookstore rather than on Amazon. But the reality is that 60% of the books I sell will probably be on Amazon. But I really hope people will continue to support bookstores, especially independent bookstores. So, I'm always happy to see. And the last two books I've written have been, for some reason, they've done better in bookstores than they have on Amazon. So that's actually been quite encouraging to me.
That's cool. That's good to know. So if you're out there listening, go find the first All-Star game by Randall Sullivan at a bookstore, potentially an independent bookstore. If you have to, if you can't find another place, then go ahead and pick it up on Amazon and, immerse yourself in the history of baseball and the backdrop of the mob and assassination attempts on the president of the United States and on Hitler's rise to power in Germany. I mean, this is like, it's like the Venn diagram of all the things that me as a 42-year-old father/sports fan, this is all the stuff I need to read anyway. So I cannot wait to tackle this book.
Well, that's great to hear, and I hope plenty join you.
Randall, thank you so much for your time, and I'm gonna ask for a commitment now that when the new book is out or when you're ready to tell people what that book is, please come back on and let us know.
I'd be happy to. Pleased and honored.
That's Randall Sullivan. Go check out his new book, The First All-Star Game, America at the Crossroads. It is available on Amazon, wherever you get your books. Go find it at a bookstore if you want to maximize what Randall gets out of it. Great, great stuff. Just do yourself a favor, whether you're going to purchase it on Amazon or not, go find the blurb, and I promise you're going to want to purchase this book. Go just read the little tease, the back cover, and I promise you're going to want to get this book. There's just the cast of characters alone. Babe Ruth, Lou Gehrig, Lefty Grove, Al Capone, Bonnie and Clyde, Charles Lindbergh, Adolf Hitler, FDR. James, great job getting that conversation lined up for us. I love stuff like this, man. Sports and history together, awesome.
Well, and as you said, I'm looking up Randall in particular, and I'm like, he must have written a lot of sports books. No, like, he writes about everything, particularly a lot about history. This is one of the few that are sports plays a big role in the story of the book, but he's a well-rounded individual, history and pop culture, and this seems like it was all of that in one. with the first All-Star game in 1933.
Okay, look at this. Here's another Randall Sullivan book. This dude is like exactly my entertainment / spare time consumption wavelength. The Devil's Best Trick. This is a book that he wrote. Part true crime story, part religious and literary history, an investigation into the nature of evil and the figure of the devil by acclaimed journalist Randall Sullivan. An examination of our understanding of all the things that we've attributed to the devil, to evil, to all, like this is, and then a sports book, and also a book about Tupac and Biggie, and also a Michael Jackson book, and also a book on Oak Island. Did you ever dive into the Oak Island thing? That
I have
History
not.
Channel?
I have not.
I first became aware of Oak Island because my brother had a Rolling Stone magazine subscription when we were young. So when I was like a young teenager, I read about the Curse of Oak Island way back then, long before the television show was out, about people's obsession with trying to find buried pirate treasure on Oak Island. And then it became like a whole 10-season History Channel show or something. Go check out Randall Sullivan's work. Big thanks to him for joining us. All right, America 250 is happening. We've got this celebration going on nationwide for the 250th anniversary of the United States of America. We've got some events happening in Utah. We'll talk about one of them next on the Sean O'Connell Show, ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. All right, big news here on the Sean O'Connell Show. You guys know how much I love my hometown of Sandy. If you have not been to a concert at the Sandy Amphitheater, you are missing out. And because I like to hook you up, it actually has nothing to do with me. Because I like to hook you up, we're going to give you information on a way for you to get out there to the Sandy Amphitheater on July 1st for a totally free, 100% no-cost concert brought to you by AFP Utah, part of the America 250 celebration. Kevin and Lexi here from AFP Utah to give us more details. Kevin, Lexi, hello.
Hi, how's it going?
Thanks for coming in.
Of course, thanks for letting us come talk about our event. We're super excited. America's 250th birthday, so we're super excited to have a big American celebration for all Utahns to come with their family, their friends. Like you said, we've got a free country concert, and we just want to celebrate America.
So there's usually when we're talking about, oh, it's totally free, there's like always a catch. You have to like sign up on some terrible mailing list. You have to end up selling your information to someone. Not this time.
No, I will say the cost is that you have to go to the website, letfreedomringutah.com, and put in your information and get your tickets. That's the cost.
That's awesome. And who's going to be performing?
So we have country music duo Low Cash coming. They will be performing a totally free concert. We have Presley Aronson will be opening, a country artist as well. So yeah, we'll have a couple inspirational speakers celebrating America 250, talking about our first 250 years, how the individual just taking one small step to get involved has gotten us to this point. And then just a big fun bash. We'll have free food, vendors. And like you said, 100% totally free. We just want to celebrate our country with the people of Utah.
LetFreedomRingUtah.com. You guys know we're a sports station, right? And there's a lot of, I don't know if it was on purpose, but there's a lot of big-time sports things happening this summer, including the World Cup. We get to host the entire world for the most important event. Even though not all of us are hardcore soccer fans, it's undeniable that the World Cup every 4 years is the biggest sporting event in the world. And Kevin Littlebird told me that you're actually going to a game.
Yeah, so I have a couple tickets up to one of the knockout games in Seattle, July 6th. So right after our concert.
So you're going to do the concert, celebrate, have fun, and then hop on a plane and get up to Seattle.
Yep. Once-in-a-lifetime chance. Super stoked for it.
And I assume Lexi's going to be going with you as the occupant of the second ticket.
Plus one,
The plus one, yeah.
Yeah. I have to ask you about this because I'm just picking everyone's brains about this. You guys know about the other sports event that's happening as part of the America 250 celebration. You've heard about the UFC event on the White House lawn.
Yeah.
Lexi, you're looking at me like you have not heard about this.
I have not.
Okay, this is amazing.
I'm a little scared, though.
Current President Donald Trump and UFC President Dana White happen to be like close friends, and they came up with this harebrained scheme to stage a sporting event, a cage fight, on the lawn of the White House. It's happening in a couple of weeks, 2 Saturdays from now, as part of the America 250 celebration. But this is the exact reaction I wanted from someone who's like not necessarily in that world. Like when I tell you cage fight, White House lawn, patriotic event, what's going through your mind?
Part of me is shocked, but I'm even more shocked that I'm not that shocked. So.
Yeah. It's a little niche, but it is happening. Everyone gets to celebrate America's 250 years in their own way. So go big if you want to. If you happen to find a way to get to that event, you are more important than me. But this concert at the Sandy Amphitheater is for everybody. LetFreedomRingUtah.com. Low Cash, who'd you say was opening?
Presley Aronson.
Presley Aronson's going to be there. Our stations are all going to be there. We're going to have a great time. And it is important to note, in today's political climate, this is a celebration of America. Yep. And for me, America means everybody. That's the American dream. We are all welcome here. This is a nonpartisan. This is a get out there, listen to some great music with your neighbors, all walks of life, colors, creeds, etc. Everybody's welcome. This is not a political event.
100%. Just we've made it 250 years. Let's celebrate and make sure we make it 250 more. The American spirit, American ideals are universal, and so that's what we want to celebrate with everybody in the area.
How can people get more involved with AFP Utah?
So one, come to this.
Yeah.
And then prosperityelevated.com is our state chapter website. You can learn more about what we're doing there. But yeah, just visit the website for the concert, get your tickets there, and then come learn more about us on July 1st as well.
Lexi, give us that concert website one more time.
LetFreedomRingUtah.com.
It's even a great website. Yep. Low Cash coming to Sandy Amphitheater. It's July 1st. Don't even have to look at your calendar, people. That is a Wednesday. You don't have anything else going on. Get down there to Sandy. That's God's country, as I like to say, my hometown. And enjoy a little country music totally for free. LetFreedomRingUtah.com. Kevin, Lexi, thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having us.
Sean O'Connell Show, and let's get to an important topic. Texas Tech is the number one villain in all of college sports right now, and it's good for the entire Big 12. Scary Movie coming to theaters Friday. ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM want you to see it first. Text movie to 33986 for your chance to win tickets. If you missed any part of hour number one on the show today, you can go to the ESPN 700 app. You can tell your smart speaker to play ESPN 700. Hopefully you're watching us on the ESPN YouTube, ESPN 700 Sports Utah on YouTube. You know how all of your favorite stories, all of your favorite movies, they've got these incredible heroes. They've got this rising action, an incredible sort of crescendo of explosions and Avengers Assemble and all that kind of stuff, this lightsaber duel. And then there's the falling action and all the, like, the shawarma scenes. But your favorite stories all have great villains also, right? We love those heroic stories when they overcome something significant, when they overcome something, when they beat something daunting, when there's something to root against, some evil out there to root against. We love that. That's our favorite stories in pop culture. I would make the argument also in sports. And because I believe this so firmly, I have come around to a surprising and somewhat new appreciation for everything that's happening in Lubbock, Texas. Texas Tech is, by all accounts, for Utah, for BYU, for Arizona State, for everyone in the Big 12, they are villains. They are this big bully on the block that has a billionaire donor who's willing to spend unimaginable amounts of money to give Texas Tech athletics whatever they want. It is a jealousy situation. It is a, no, you don't deserve that. You can't just buy your way into prominence situation. I was a skeptic going into last year. If you were listening to my show this time of year last year, if you were listening to my show even at Big 12 Media Days last year, I was like, I actually don't think Texas Tech's going to be that good, because they went out and they got all these all-star like level talents. They didn't actually purchase a lot of production. If you looked at like David Bailey, who ended up being unbelievable at Texas Tech, David Bailey was really good at Stanford, but he wasn't a world beater, right? If you look at Romello Height was a disappointment at USC and at Georgia Tech. He never lived up to his recruiting potential. He was one of the highest rated guys at his position coming out of high school, and his production had yet to say anything even close to that. I was looking at Texas Tech last year and just being like, yeah, prove it. We'll see. And obviously their coaching staff is excellent. Their team culture in a very much transactional and mercenary environment was much better than I gave it credit for. And Texas Tech ended up being a really good football team. Now, I'm not rooting for them, but I have found a particular affection for Texas Tech because Texas Tech is going to force eyes and conversation onto the Big 12 Conference. And BYU, Utah, and everybody else, they get to kind of like bask in the after effects of that, especially whoever ends up playing Texas Tech next year in a presumed matchup in a Big 12 championship game. Now, I know there's a lot of things that have to happen before you actually get that to be reality, but right now, Texas Tech is embracing this role of villain. They're being a heel. Brett Yormark decided that one of the marketing partners he wanted to have for the Big 12 Conference was WWE Wrestling, right? They did that whole campaign last year where you had a wrestling event on a Friday night and then the games on campus on Saturday. I haven't seen an announcement of the same thing coming up this year, so we'll see. I imagine that the TKO group, which now owns the WWE, might have something to say about whether or not that was successful enough, but we'll see how that plays out. We'll get an announcement if we're going to get one at Big 12 Media Days. But Brett Yormark decided, you know what, that sort of like crossover, that blurred line between sport and spectacle, I want that to be a partner of ours in Big 12 athletics. And I think that Texas Tech, more than anybody else, jumped on that bandwagon and was like, yeah, you know what? this might be good. No such thing as bad attention in today's media cycle. Texas Tech being front of mind, obviously the money helps more than anything to be front of mind for recruits. But being front of mind for recruits is great. It doesn't get you everything that you want. It doesn't get you the invitation to the party that you may need eventually if the SEC and the Big Ten decide that they're breaking away or decide that they're going to consolidate power or whatever, right? Texas Tech, just like Utah, is posturing and positioning and trying to put themselves on the right side of that line of demarcation whenever it comes down. There's a guillotine that is going to drop someday on college sports, and the people who are on the right side of the line are going to be financially flush, and the people on the other side of the line are not going to disappear. They're not going to die. They're not going to evaporate. Not in football, not in basketball, but in some of those other sports we were talking about at the beginning of the show, they are. Well, Texas Tech is leaning into their villain role in every sport right now. Just think of what Texas Tech is doing, okay? Not only do people have a certain amount of distaste for the way that they have purchased their way into relevance, and sorry, folks in Lubbock, you can't say it's anything else, all right? A long time ago, you had Mike Leach, and he made you interesting for a while because he's a coaching genius and he's an innovator. And then you ran him out of town, and he went, unfortunately, to his grave in a legal battle with you over money that he felt he was owed for wrongful termination. And then Texas Tech labored in mediocrity and relative obscurity until NIL rules allowed for a former player who is a billionaire to come to the athletic department and say, let me be the one who saves you from yourselves.
And let's get a second target. And here we go.
And let's build target number 2. Let's build the store target number 2. And you know what? We might get an Arby's someday.
Yeah.
Texas Tech bought their way into relevance. Now, if you're a BYU fan, if you're a Utah fan, if you're an Ohio State fan, you're looking at them with a side eye, and you're just going like, give me a break, man. This sucks.
Yeah, we are. We don't like you, Texas Tech.
You're just buying all the best recruits, not because you have a better football program, you have better history, you have better anything, not because Lubbock is a great place to live or the education there at Texas Tech University is fantastic. It's not about that. It's about you being able to pay more. And there's something in us as college sports fans, I think as sports fans in general, because we feel the same way about the Dodgers. We feel the same way about the Yankees. We feel the same way about all these, I feel that way about the Dallas Cowboys, even in a hard cap league. Like, stop it. So we already have that working against Texas Tech in our collective sports fan minds. And you know what? They don't shy away from it at all. If they were trying to shy away from it, they would be acting like BYU does. BYU is constantly talking about, no, it's because it's a special place. That's why people want to be here. We're not going to be the highest bidder on anything. BYU is not relevant because of spending. BYU is not better off athletically because of NIL positioning. They're trying to convince themselves of that while they're trying to convince everyone else of that. You know what Texas Tech is doing? They're giving a microphone to Cody Campbell.
Yeah, they're saying, hey, this guy has a lot of money. That's why we were able to have the football team we've had. That's why we were able to get the softball team relevant, and we're perfectly comfortable with that.
They're not even like, hey, Cody, act like an old money billionaire, okay? Don't be this nouveau riche. It's so gauche of you to be out there bragging about your money. They don't say, Cody Campbell, I don't want you talking about how much money you give. I don't want you talking about who's making money. I don't want you talking about any of this stuff. I don't want you offering publicly to pay buyouts when Texas talks crap on us. They're like, yeah, dude, go for it, Cody.
Do whatever. You got carte blanche. Do whatever you want. Is to add another term that we're throwing out there.
And by the way, he is leaning into this heel status as well. And Texas, you know what Texas Tech is doing right now, ladies and gentlemen? Texas Tech is with a straight face trying to convince the entire college sports world that it's okay that their projected starting quarterback has a serious sports gambling problem and he should be allowed, after betting on college games where he was a member of the team he was betting on, they are trying to convince us unapologetically, non-ironically, to say, yeah, this guy should be able to play. They're doing that right now. They don't give a you-know-what about how we feel, you feel, anybody outside of Lubbock, Texas feels. They don't care how the Big 12 Conference feels about this PR nightmare that they are turning into, that they are Conor McGregor right now. You either love him or you love to hate him. Conor McGregor's too strong. They're Jake Paul is what they are.
Yeah, there you go. A little more, little less mainstream. Yeah.
It's like, you know what? We are going to be the squeaky wheel everywhere we show up. You know how ridiculous it is that the decision has been made at Texas Tech to try to get Brendan Sorsby eligible? Do you know how much money is going to be wasted on this? Do you know how silly it is from an actual, like, integrity of the game standpoint to pretend that you are going to, like, put Brendan Sorsby on a college football field this year when just a couple of months ago we found out he had bet $90,000 plus. He was wiring money to friends so they could bet for him. He was deliberately trying to conceal his betting and his betting behaviors because he knew it was illegal. And their whole defense is, well, it's an addiction and you're not accountable if it's an addiction. The message that sends, they don't care. Texas Tech is embracing the role. They have gone firmly to the dark side, and they are now sitting with a cowl over their faces so you can't see their eyes. They've just got the gnarly Emperor Palpatine teeth, and they're just like, this battle station is fully operational. They don't give a bleep, and I love it about Texas Tech leaning into this because the SEC is looking at it and just going like, ooh, those new money Texas brats. And the Big Ten is just like, well, they're not that good. We saw what happened when we put them in a college football playoff. But, man, will they just shut up? I mean, people are going to hate watch Texas Tech, which means the rest of the Big 12 catches a stray here and there. And people are just going to be like, oh, man, I hope somebody beat Texas Tech. Now, I wish desperately Utah and BYU had regular season matchups with Texas Tech where all those hate watchers get to see the product of Utah football because they are hate watching Texas Tech. That's where it's most beneficial. But I think Texas Tech, even without Sorsby, might be good enough to get to a conference championship game, in which case they will be playing most likely against Utah or BYU. And in that case, now this state actually gets the real benefit of being in a conference with, like, Texas Tech is now becoming hateable in the same way that USC is hateable, right? USC was, from the traditional standpoint, they were the big money, the flashy, the LA, the man they want, or we want what they have, but we actually think we can beat them. And then, it turns out we can beat them. It turns out we're as good as them. Now, Utah's got to prove that still with Texas Tech, but eventually they're going to get there, like you did with USC, right? Like that distaste you have in your heart for USC athletics, that now can be applied to Texas Tech, because through the non-traditional means, Texas Tech is in the same exact spot that USC used to be. USC used to do it with bags of cash for Reggie Bush. Texas Tech now does it legally with wires of cash into the bank accounts from Cody Campbell. And it's not just in football. The Brendan Sorsby thing is the most absurd and ridiculous and obnoxious villain behavior that we have had in college sports since I don't know when. I'm trying to think of what the most direct equivalent of this was. It's Georgia with all of their insane speeding. They're just flouting of traffic laws.
Even the former Georgia players, they're now Eagles, are getting into trouble with that as NFL players. Yeah,
it's as hateable as the the old days of Miami football.
Oh yeah, the rebel,
The Catholics versus convicts type era of Miami football where they were
That's
like,
probably the best comparison.
they were like out on like yachts and wearing gold chains and driving fancy cars, and everyone was just
They
like, "What?"
Showed up to the national championship game in army fatigues. A lot of people hated that.
There's just Texas Tech is leaning this far into it, so far into it that even in softball, if you've been watching any of the Women's College World Series, even the highlights of the Women's College World Series, you had a handshake line mix-up. They almost got in a fight in the handshake line. That was incredible. That was fantastic. If you miss that, you can at least see the excessive celebrations of the dads, including white chocolate. You knew about this, Jason Williams, the former Sacramento King. His daughter, Mia, is a really excellent player, a transfer. They did a Zapruder film breakdown on ESPN, on ESPN-W. There was a handshake line situation. A Tennessee transfer in the Women's College World Series. She transferred to Texas Tech, allegedly for a lucrative sum of money. She transfers to Tech. Tennessee beats Tech in the round-robin phase, in the pool play of the Women's College World Series. One player starts spouting off at the mouth, causing some kind of like scuffle, a little kerfuffle going on post-game after the handshake line. And the Texas Tech player, the former Tennessee Vol, who was playing against her old team, and her old team beat her, she said that a coach told her, like, made some snide comment about how she made a mistake transferring to Texas Tech, and that's why she started to pop off. Well, the reality of the situation is they went into the film study. I mean, they were like slow motion, the little circle where they highlight and make that circle bright and the rest of the screen gets dark. And it looks like she completely made the whole thing up. You can't register. You can't tell that the opposing coach said anything to her at all. It was Taylor Pennell. She accused Karen Weekly, a Tennessee coach who was her former coach. And the coach was like, I didn't say that. And then when the video breakdown, it looks like she just flat out lied so she could get mad and try to pick a fight. But again, this is what Texas Tech is becoming athletically and leaning into. Now, I applaud and I still applauded, or I applauded and I still applaud is the right way to say that. When Texas was talking their smack, when Sark opened his big mouth when he shouldn't have, and Tech was like, all right, fine then, let's do it. Let's play. We'll pay the buyout for your week 1 game, and we'll pay the buyout for our week 1 game. And Abilene Christian and Texas State get their money, and we get to play you. You see what they're doing? Anytime there's an opportunity for Texas Tech to be in the headlines, they are in the headlines. And they are unapologetic about it. Now, I don't know that this heel turn would work for Utah. I think that the identity of the program moving forward is going to be a little too wholesome. I think that the intellectual brutality kind of approach is more realistic with Utah football. You obviously aren't going to be the hated big spender because you don't have the Cody Campbell. At least we don't know as of yet. I'm not a billionaire yet. Sorry, people. Also, if I was a billionaire, I think I'd buy Weber State's way into the Big Ten. That'd be pretty sick. But in any case, Texas Tech has put themselves in this category of hateable, but you're going to watch. I don't like you, but I'm going to watch maybe so I could see you get beat. And that is actually beneficial for the Big 12 Conference because they are going to be in headlines. They are going to be in college football discussions. And if you don't have that in your conference, you don't have anything. Who in the ACC is being talked about right now? Middle of June, Not a whole lot going on. Who in the ACC is being talked about as a university? Is there anyone? I read the headline. I'm 877-353-0700. I'm being genuine here. Is there any school that I am missing that I am prone to doing this? So,
What? Clemson's typically that one lately, but unless Dabo's saying because the product on the field has not been what it was, even when they won the ACC last year, got into the playoff. It's not the Clemson, anything close to the Clemson that was winning national championships. I mean, last year, okay. 2 years ago.
Here's what it is. Okay, this is right now the headline about the ACC, right? The SEC and the Big Ten are in the headlines because they're jointly opposing the Save College Sports, Protect College Sports bill, all right? And they're always in the headlines because they've always got something going on, right? Texas Tech is in the headlines because they're stirring up controversy everywhere, and they're picking fights with Texas. All right, good job, Texas. You're in the headlines. Texas Tech, you're in the headlines. Okay, good job. The ACC is in because Malachi Toney is on the cover of the new ESPN college football game.
I mean, yeah, Miami made it to the national championship game last year.
Of course
too,
they did.
So maybe
I'm not saying that the ACC is not, dangerous, is not in a good position. What I'm saying is, in this never-ending soap opera of college sports and of sports in general, you have to find a way from a conference perspective to keep yourself in the national consciousness, to keep yourself in the public eye, or at least in the public mind's eye. And right now, Texas Tech is carrying that water.
Yeah, it's the attention currency, right? And you're right. Even with Miami being in the national championship game, I started off talking about Clemson being the recent flag bearer, completely forgetting momentarily that they had a team in the national championship game last year that was not Clemson. So,
and the funny thing is, Miami is the team that should be doing this.
Yeah, they should be the
Miami
heel.
should just be like, yeah, dude, we're on our way to another national championship appearance. This is Miami. Look at our guy flying his private jets to South Beach. Like, Miami should be doing that,
and
should
Mario,
be forcing themselves. And guess what? Utah, like, in your own brand, you can't copy Texas Tech. You can't copy Miami. You can't copy the SEC. You can't. Like, I don't want Morgan Scalley to be the one that's doing the Sark thing, just like, well, there's another school in our state. Blah, 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 blah. You sound like an idiot. You look like an idiot. Morgan's not going to have to do that. But I hate that this is what it is, but this is what it is. It's theater in this time of year, right? You got to be an active participant in the theater. Good job, Texas Tech. I guess we hate you, but good job. All right, got to take a break. The Daily Dump is coming next. A potpourri of stories here on the Sean O'Connell Show, including a curse coming to Chicago, maybe a double curse coming to Chicago. I'll tell you what it is next on the Sean O'Connell Show, ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. Curse coming to Chicago. Caleb Williams is on the cover of Madden. The Madden curse is going to extend even further for the Bears this year. Chicago is going to lose the team. They're going to move to Indiana. The Hammond, Indiana Bears after this season.
So you said they're going to lose the team, and I'm thinking, oh, he's tongue-in-cheek because what else bad could happen to the Bears? And then you say, oh, yeah. And then I go, oh, yeah, they're moving out of Chicago.
Which
probably, maybe.
It seems like the most likely thing now is that they're probably going to move to an Indiana suburb of Chicago. It's part of the greater Chicago metroplex.
But not even in Illinois.
It's in Hammond, Indiana. It's right there on the border. It's kind of like the San Francisco 49ers play in Santa Clara, 40 minutes south of San Francisco.
Except at least it's not in Idaho or Reno, right? Like this is like this.
That would suck if it was like Chicago. The Chicago Bears are still going to be called the Chicago Bears. But all the detractors, all those NFC North opponents are just going to be like, you're not even in Chicago, dude.
You mean the Indiana Bears?
You're not even there. Now, it used to be more of an insult, but now Indiana apparently is a football state after Kurt Signetti.
Yeah, that's a good point. It'd be like if St. George was a much bigger city, they got a sports team and it's in Mesquite, Nevada. Like it's like, okay, it's in the general area, but it's not even in the same state. Yeah.
Caleb Williams did say it was on his it was a childhood dream to be on the Madden cover, and now he is on the Madden cover. They've got him doing like a jump man pose, like a jumping throw. It's stupid. Caleb Williams, he had a really great season last year, and now he's going to have a bad one because the Madden curse is living and real.
So he did have a really good season compared to was that just his second year? It feels like he's been in Chicago for at least like this would be his fourth season. Anyway, his second year was an upgrade. He progressed from his rookie year. Absolutely, the team absolutely did a lot better. But he also had plenty of times where he's making head scratching plays, missing receivers and throwing interceptions or whatever. So like, if he has a bad year. Yes, it's fair to say, because of the history of the Madden cover athlete, the Madden curse, whatever, but also it could also just be that he's just still not as good as you expect a number one overall pick to be. And listen, I think he's going to get there, but like I'm not a detractor of Caleb Williams enough where I don't believe he's going to live up to the hype, but he's just, even in his really good year last year, he left a lot wanting.
Well, yeah, I mean, he's a second-year player.
Yeah,
I don't like
and that's
like,
true.
We all find reasons to dislike Caleb Williams because he's everything you didn't like, right? Blue blood program transferred to a bluer blood program. And
just happened to be USC, so we automatically hate him around
USC,
here.
And he never was able to beat Utah, so we feel like this bully mentality toward him. And he did the bleep Utah on his fingernails, which and by the way, I've talked to him a couple of times. We talked to him at Pac-12 Media Days a couple of times. He's a charismatic kid, but he is very much a different generation.
Yeah,
there's a lot of conversation in the draft process about he's like the first true Gen Z quarterback. He's the first of that kind of crop of guys that maybe the old school NFL heads aren't going to have an easy time understanding because he likes to do TikTok dances just as much as he likes to play football. And if you're even 5 or 10 years older than that, you're just like, that is behavior for girls. That is weird. That's not how a young man in your position as a starting quarterback is supposed to act. But that generation truly doesn't see it that way. Caleb Williams is very much that. You get a sense interviewing him, talking to him, that there's nothing wrong with the guy. He just is from a different generation where you live online and your trash talk is not punished in person. And he was learning through the process of college football that oh yeah, wait, when I do or say something, that they also get to have something to say about it. Caleb Williams he's a good quarterback. He's a freakish athletic talent. He's an incredible improviser. He is like our guy Eric Weddle will beat home this point. I don't know how good he is at playing in the pocket yet, and you have to get better at playing in the pocket. He's far from elite because what he's best at, what he's elite at, is off-schedule, off-platform, improvisation, in-pocket, like boring stuff. The Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers stuff. He's not good at that yet. He's not great at that yet. He's good at it. He's not great at it yet. But now he's going to take a backward step because he's on the Madden cover.
Yeah.
Sorry about your poor decision, Caleb Williams. Also, sorry about the decision that photographer made to have that be the picture on the front of the Madden cover.
For the guy who's representing Chicago great athletes right now to do a Jumpman pose and when he's clearly not
Speaking
that
of
guy yet,
the Indiana Bears, I don't know if you saw this little quirk of broadcasting. The city of Indianapolis on Game 1 of the Stanley Cup Final last night had no announcer audio.
Yeah, I did hear.
So if you're watching the game, you're hearing the ambient sounds of the game. There was no broadcast audio. The microphones were not on.
So
Specifically in Indianapolis.
Just in Indianapolis, because didn't notice that here.
It was
in
not
Salt
the
Lake
case
City
here.
On ABC4.
It was Sean McDonough, right?
Yeah, Sean McDonough, Ray Ferrero, always good. Real quick, our guy Derek H. texted in and said he was initially irritated that Stafford wasn't on the cover of Madden. Then he remembered the Madden curse, and he's like, you know what? I'm thrilled it's Caleb Williams because I'm excited for his downfall.
What if Myles Garrett was on the cover and the Rams got just this cursed, terrible version of him?
You just traded for a curse. Yeah, that'd be terrible. Good thing it's Caleb Williams.
Speaking of Myles Garrett, Aaron Donald was asked again, and he said he now said he's flirting with the idea of coming back to play alongside Myles Garrett. I'm trying to figure out how many weeks it takes before we get the official announcement. He's not going to want to be part of OTAs. He doesn't want to be.
It won't be this month.
It's not going to. I don't even think he's definitely not going to want to be part of the preseason. He's not going to want to go to camp. Veteran guys don't enjoy that. They don't like it. It's not something that they think is constructive for them. So, and I really would love to be a fly on the wall and know when Sean McVay and Les Snead and Matthew Stafford and all these guys, they know that he is special, that Aaron Donald is a special talent. He's a special player. They think that they're about to have a special season, right? Do they want Aaron Donald to be fully in from the get-go, or are they yeah, he's Aaron Donald. If he wants to come in at the bye week, then we'll let him. If he wants to come in for just a playoff run, that is extreme behavior that I don't think serves anyone, but they want him back. Of course they want him back. Are they well, if he's going to be back, he needs to be all the way back, or are they just we'll take whatever we can get out of him. It'll be awesome. I really would like the truth serum answer on that, because 99.9% of all human beings, you're going to say, dude, you're an awesome player, but if I have to go through this, you have to go through this. Aaron Donald is that 0.01% that you can say, yeah, dude, do it how you have to do it. Do it how you want to do it. He's the Lawrence Taylor of this generation. Lawrence Taylor, they were he missed practice. Oh, practice is canceled.
Yeah.
Why are you canceling practice? So I don't have to find Lawrence Taylor. Because, oh, what's that? Lawrence Taylor stayed up all night on a cocaine bender and showed up randomly on game day ready to play? All right, Lawrence, here's your helmet. They didn't enforce anything. They don't do anything. Aaron Donald probably has that level of autonomy with this Rams team, but does he want to exercise it? And if he does, is it something that they are truly supportive of? Or are they going to be come on, dude. You can't be oh, Myles Garrett's back. Now let me set a terrible example of expectations in this franchise for Myles Garrett. I don't know.
Yeah. it's particularly rare that Aaron Donald may be able to wield that kind of autonomy, that kind of power, OC, given that he's not a quarterback, too. Like we've been hearing Aaron Rodgers doing this stuff for years now.
The other
We've
thing
been
about
hearing Tom Brady would do this stuff, skip preseason. Like we hear that sort of thing, but that's your star quarterback. This is a rare thing being a non-quarterback.
and for a quarterback to do it is actually costly for a team. For a defensive lineman to do it is not.
Yeah.
Like Poona Ford, who is the current starter at nose tackle for the Rams. Poona Ford, take all the reps, man. Have your fun. When Aaron Donald comes back, you're a really good player. When Aaron Donald comes back, he's a better player. We could just throw him in there. At your position, at one of the end positions, we could have him play outside linebacker. So, I don't know. It's a lot more plug and play on defensive line than it is at quarterback. But
Sure.
You're right. There's a lot of these guys that are just like, yeah, I'm the most important guy in the room, and so I can exercise that power. I don't think he's cut from that cloth necessarily, but we'll see. Last thing in the Daily Dump, brought to you by our friends at Valley Plumbing. Look for the truck with the duck for all of your plumbing and drain cleaning needs. Also, if you've got an issue with your air conditioner, maybe you've tried firing that bad boy up and it sounds like a lawnmower, the fan is not spinning smoothly, etc., go to valleyplumbing.com, set an appointment now using the chat feature online. Last thing in the Daily Dump, the All-Star format has been revealed for the 2027 NHL All-Star Game in Long Island.
New York Islanders hosting it.
You know, we're doing a PFL event there this year.
Are you really?
Yeah.
So this will be the second biggest event.
This will be the second biggest event at the home of the Islanders. New arena there.
Yeah. So it's going to sound really familiar for a couple of reasons. It sounds close. It sounds like the Four Nations face-off, but it's not that. And it sounds like the NBA All-Star U.S. versus World thing they did this last year that ended up being really successful. But it's not quite that.
So 5 teams, Canada, Finland, Sweden, the United States, and a world team, which is effectively just going to be Russian players.
Yeah. All the other officially, it's all the other non-North American players that are not from Finland or Sweden.
So it's going to be Czech Republic and Russia.
Yeah. So Veggie could be on this team.
A couple of Germans.
Yeah.
At least one German.
Yeah. Veggie could be on this team. Paterka could be on this team.
Yes. Leon Draisaitl will be involved in this, and then it'll be like
Ovechkin if he
Sergachev.
Yeah.
Russians.
Yeah.
Which is, again, I've said it before, I am fully able, excited to separate politics from athletics when it comes to stuff like this. Now, if you are
ought to be able to have a Russian team, yeah.
If you're a Russian athlete who's like wearing Vladimir Putin shirts to the arena every single day, you're asking for politics and sports to cross over, and in that case, maybe people will want to exclude you from something like this. But if you're just someone of Russian descent who's like, I wish I could play in the Olympics. I wish I could play in an all-star game. That'd be cool. I think this is a nice workaround for the NHL. My hope is that they will allow Russian-born athletes to participate here. So those 5 teams, Canada, Finland, Sweden, United States, and World, which maybe allows for more Mammoth players to get involved. They will play, it'll be 11 players per team, 9 skaters, 2 goaltenders. They'll play 3-on-3 hockey, and they'll play 5-minute games during a round-robin format. No overtime period, no shootout. You get 2 points for a win in that 5-minute game, 1 point for a tie, 0 points for a loss.
So it's the regular season, same as regular season games, your same point totals there, except you don't have an overtime, so you have a tie, you get a point there.
The top 2 teams then play in a 10-minute all-star final based on the following point system. Here's my only issue with this. All right? 5 minutes per game is going to lead to a lot of 0-0 games,
yes.
I think.
You're gonna get, but 3-on-3, a lot more
3-on-3
space.
opens
Maybe
the spacing up a little bit. If the
maybe you
guys
get
are,
a fair amount of scoring.
if the guys are trying really hard, if the goaltenders are trying really hard, you're going to get some 0-0 games here in a round-robin tournament, and there's going to be ties.
Scoreless ties, the worst kind of tie.
Yeah, the scoreless tie. This is potential for a soccer result here. But I always applaud some type of innovation, some sort of new idea about the way we can make these all-star games more relevant.
The winner of this all-star round-robin tournament thing gets a $2 million prize that I guess everyone on the team gets to divide among themselves. So yeah, it's similar to what the NBA has done the last couple of years, in that they improved upon this past season with the U.S. teams versus the world teams. But it's also got that kind of four nation flair to it. With, hey, we have teams, we have basically national teams for 4 different countries here, and then another world team. That makes it different from what the NBA did a little bit, but which the NBA kind of tried to copy the Four Nations a little bit but round robin style. So this is like Four Nations NBA All-Star fusion thing going on here.
All right, we got Between the Pipes coming in about 10 minutes. We'll take a quick break here after that, the Daily Dump. How about this? We're number 12. We're number 12. Chant it with me. We're number 12.
We're number 12.
What do I mean? Well, I'll tell you next. It's the Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 700 at 92.1 FM. All right, you heard me chanting word number 12. Word number 12. Salt Lake City has been ranked the number 12 sports city in America.
Also, that was not an ode to the Seahawks' 12th man.
No.
Okay.
Of course not. The Sports Business Journal has some interesting metrics for how they rank these cities, but the Sports Business Journal has ranked Salt Lake City the number 12 sports city in America. And I love it.
So give me an idea of some of the ones that you'd expect to be higher than Salt Lake City that are behind them.
Well,
you have the list there?
Hold on. Let me pull up the full list. There's teams like Boston that are lower on the sports city
take that,
rankings.
Boston.
Salt Lake City, they made a huge leap this year. They went from 44 to 12.
Someone at Sports Business Journal know Governor Cox or Ryan Smith, and they're doing him a favor here. Like, what? I'll listen to the metrics here, see if it makes a lot of sense.
Okay, so it's remember, this is the Sports Business Journal, so a lot of it is related to your facilities, the capacity to host events, hotel space, airport, these types of things make you a better sports city. Okay?
Airport, certainly great.
The airport is sneaky. Utah's great. Do you know how crazy it's going to be for opposing fans, for teams, etc., when we get a Major League Baseball team and they put it out at the Power District, and people are like, you'll be able to fly in and make it to the game 15 minutes later.
Yeah. Especially where the stadium's going to be.
The stadium is going to be the closest thing in Salt Lake City to the airport.
Yeah.
That's a big deal.
Huge deal. Like, Delta Center used to be the closest, like, sports thing, and Delta Center's pretty close. The baseball field's going to be basically right next door.
It was very funny. The first major UFC event that was staged in Salt Lake City, like outdoor retailers or something was going on at the same time. So all of the hotels were booked up, and all the fighters were just like, oh, wow, this city is great. Because you look on your maps when you're going to a place, right? And it's like, oh, you fly into this place. The arena is 10 minutes away. This is great. But that first event, they all had to stay in Provo.
Oh, no.
At hotels in Provo. So they were just like, what the hell?
Well, and that was before the big Hyatt was built, right before the All-Star game that's connected to the Salt Palace down the road from us here. So we've gotten a lot more accommodations since then.
So
thankfully.
pretty cool little bump up going from number 44 to number 12. So Philadelphia is 14. Denver is 16.
Wow.
Boston is 17. Denver's the most important one here. I want Salt Lake City to defeat Denver in all things. Denver, when people picture in their mind what Denver is, they're really picturing Salt Lake City.
Yeah.
And it makes me angry. We need a Major League Baseball team. We need an NFL football team, but we're probably never going to get that, which sticks in my craw. They get the Broncos. We should have a team that's cooler than Broncos.
You know what? At least we can beat up on the Buffs all the time.
The Bronc Riders. That's what we should be. That's what our
Riders.
That's what our NFL team should be. Let's see. Salt Lake City added the Utah Mammoth. They got a professional volleyball team that factored into this.
Okay.
What about Salt Lake?
Okay. Shots fired at the Talons about to
Incorrect.
open their
You just
first year.
You didn't let me get there.
My bad.
Softball League, the Utah Talons mentioned.
I apologize. Sports Business Journal.
And Winter Olympics coming in 2034.
All right.
So, Sports Business Journal, high on Utah, high on Salt Lake City. They're number 12 sports city.
Who's number 1?
I got to pull it up again.
Oh, my bad. I keep asking when you change pages there.
Sports Business Journal.
Is it L.A., New York, maybe?
It is Cleveland. No, just kidding. Top sports cities. My internet, once again, continues to be slow. Okay, this is actually kind of a fun list when you really get into it. Number one, I'm glad I thought it was New York, and I was about to say New York. Atlanta is number one.
Oh, Atlanta's number one. Okay.
Atlanta, again, it's not just like, oh, you have the best fans and all that kind of stuff. Atlanta is a really cool sports city. I don't know if you spent time in Atlanta. Atlanta's cool.
They got everything but hockey. They got 3 out of the 4, and they had hockey for a minute there.
They did.
But they have 3 of the 4 major sports. That certainly has to factor in.
They probably still would have hockey if they hadn't done such a terrible logo for their hockey team.
Yeah, the Thrashers
was just a bad logo.
Yeah, and they only made 1 playoff appearance in however long they were there, like 10 years or so. So, yeah.
So, hold on. I just want to see where Seattle is because I know Chad's listening. Seattle's at 22.
Mid.
Top 5, Atlanta, 1. New York City, 2.
Okay.
Indianapolis, 3.
Oh.
Charlotte, 4.
Interesting.
Minneapolis, St. Paul, 5. LA, 6. Las Vegas, how about that? Las Vegas was not even a sports city a decade ago. And now they're number 7. Phoenix, 8. Kansas City, 9. Miami, 10. Again, the metrics for Sports Business Journal are a little bit different. But what we're talking about is, on the business front, business opportunities, businesses and real estate and parking spots and transportation and hotel rooms and all the things that kind of make for a smooth business proposition
like
of adding more sports and hosting sporting events.
Yeah.
And that kind of thing.
Like event hosting type things. You're thinking about what would make this city ideal for hosting events. Yeah, okay. That's why you don't just have New York and LA 1 and 2. But yeah, that's really cool that Salt Lake, for a publication like Sports Business Journal, is right outside the top 10. Like, it says a lot about what we've done infrastructure-wise to improve our event hosting capabilities.
You know what state is really suffering it with this? Texas, man. Texas, They got Dallas is 20, Houston is 25, Arlington is 24. They've got a bunch of cities that get mentioned on the list, but everything is so spaced out in Texas.
Yeah.
It's tough. All right, we got to take a break here. Adrian Denny's going to join us for a little Between the Pipes. Game 1 of the Stanley Cup Final in the books. Game 1 of the NBA Finals will be played tonight. You can listen to that right here on ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. We'll get to the hockey side of things with Adrian Denny next on Utah's #1 Sports Talk. Time to go between the pipes with Adrian Denny, our Utah Mammoth and NHL insider. Alan Industries, Valley Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling make it possible for us to talk with Adrian every single week. Here he is in studio with us. Hello.
Hey, Sean. How's it going? After a game one that kind of went all over the map.
It was a wild one.
Vegas takes it 5-4.
Very entertaining game one, and in some ways a microcosm of what we have seen from Vegas in these playoffs, where everyone's pulling on the same rope, even the big star players doing the nitty-gritty, the dirty work type stuff. And in the case of the final shot, the final attempt, the final opportunity for Carolina to equalize, they've emptied their own net. They're up a man because of it. And that final drive, a nice big shot, and Mitch Marner's trying to get out of the way so that Hart can get a good look at it, and he still ends up blocking the shot. So even though he was trying to get out of the way, the right play happened for Vegas. They have been fortunate with some of those breaks on their run to the Stanley Cup final.
As Mitch Marner continues to be the story, the offseason acquisition, leaving his hometown of Toronto, and then he's the story right there on a quote-unquote defensive play to help Vegas jump up 1-0 in the series. Marner, 22 points in 17 games so far in the playoffs. It's his best ever playoff season that he's had. And Vegas, as we've seen so many times in this playoffs especially, 7 of their 13 wins in the postseason have been come-from-behind wins. 2 of their last 3 wins have been multi-goal comeback wins against teams that you just don't expect to come from behind. You're down 2-0 in Carolina. Granted, it was early. Down 3-0 against Colorado. That's how they've won. You just can't shake them.
You can't shake them. They're victorious in game one, even though they went down early in this game. Tomas Hertl was asked about it post game and just like, hey, was there any nerves? Was there anything? And he kind of laughed it off, which, of course, all these NHL guys are, unflappable. That's how they get to where they're at. But when you're down in a game one of a Stanley Cup final, in the first 12 minutes, you're down by 2 goals. That could be a pretty nerve-wracking situation. They handled it with total poise and ended up battling it out over a back-and-forth game, as you've already mentioned, to 4-4 up until those final couple of minutes. When you saw them go down 2-0, did you think this game at the end would be a little bit different than what we saw?
I got a couple of texts
from
friends watching, and I've got a mutual friend who works for the Hurricanes, and another one of our mutual friends texted me, and then another one did, and I'm like, I don't know if we should be planning what Walt does on his day with the cup. And Hertl, a guy that Vegas got from San Jose a couple years ago, parted with a first-round draft pick for their first. I shouldn't say it right after they'd won the Stanley Cup. They got him during the 23-24 season, and he's a guy, OC, that's got lots of playoff experience, 97 games, but he hadn't scored in 29 straight games until the Anaheim series. Now he has 4 goals in 8 games, gets the go-ahead game winner last night. They just have a lot of pieces like that. And one thing we talked about during the first round series with the Mammoth is playoff experience, and that's what we're talking about. When they fall behind, they have a lead, they give up a lead, they have a lead, they give up another lead. They're just kind of unshakable, and they've played so many games over the last 9 years, and they've got guys that have been involved in every playoff run that they've made, that they're just kind of there. And it was a game where I don't think we'll see many more 5-4 games. Maybe we will, because both teams are so loaded offensively, but it's not what you'd expect, because going into the game, You had the two best defensive teams, and you had the two best goaltenders in the Stanley Cup playoffs going at it. And, so we'll see what adjustments we get from game 1 to game 2. Carolina was a team that, they came out and fell apart against Montreal, losing 6-2 in that first game of the Eastern Conference Finals, and then they came back and won 4 straight. So we'll see if we get that. Carolina is also a team, OC, that has mowed through the playoffs before, and then they kind of hit a roadblock. It's been in the conference finals against the Florida Panthers, and the wheels kind of have come off. But for me, what I've seen from Carolina is kind of that team that, they lose that first game against Montreal, and they're back up, kind of unflappable, like Vegas, resetting and getting back going.
A lot is being made of the struggles of that top line for Carolina. No points last night, and their coach said, "Look, you got to get you got to get your best guys producing." Everyone knows that. How big a concern is that if you're Brenda Moore?
For me, it is, because not only have they struggled in the playoffs as a whole, but now they're playing Vegas, who has shut down every top line that they've seen in the playoffs so far. It was quiet from McKinnon, Natchez, and Landeskog in that conference final, where Colorado entered, top scoring team in the regular season, and they'd done the same in the playoffs against Dallas and Minnesota. And all of a sudden they score 7 goals in 4 games, largely in part because there was nothing coming from the top line. So Vegas has just done a good job. Like they're big, they're physical, they just take stuff away to the point that you get shots blocked like Marner blocked last night, is that looked like it was ticketed to the back of the net. So bigger concern there, because you're playing Vegas and they've got the track record of pretty much shutting everything down so far here in the playoffs.
Adrian Denny is our guest here on the Sean O'Connell Show. We go between the pipes once a week. We talk about all things NHL. Right now, Stanley Cup final, Game 1, Vegas victory is front of mind. And look, we've been talking about this in the weeks leading up to it, about Vegas and its sustainability, and about Carter Hart and the way that he has played in goal. Now, giving up 4 goals in a game, I mean, that's above his playoff average for what we've seen in the series that have got them here. And that's without Carolina's top line producing any points. Was there a little shakiness in goal for you for Vegas last night, or was this a product of just both teams battling it out and with relative parity between them?
There was, and for the first time against an opponent in the Stanley Cup playoffs since they played Utah in the first 3 games, and we're going into Game 4, and then Utah falls behind 3-0 in Game 4, and all of a sudden they've got a 4-3 lead, right? And that looked like an area for Vegas that was a weakness until all of a sudden he gets on fire, and now Vegas has won 12 of 14. But there were some softies on both ends, I thought, last night, with both Freddie Anderson and Carter Hart, 2 guys that entered the evening in the conversation for best player in the playoffs so far. But that's a great point about, like, they got 4 goals and nothing from their top line.
I'm of the opinion that, winning ugly means you're a better team, right? Almost winning doesn't matter in the Stanley Cup finals. There's no moral victories here. But if you play close to a team when you're not getting anything from, I would expect that at some point before this series is over, Sebastian Aho and company are going to give you something, right? So if the margin is that close, if the split between these two teams is so narrow that you need that late goal from Tomas Hertl to pull it out for Vegas, what happens when that top line for Carolina gets going? Because I assume at least in one of these games they should.
Yeah, and for Carolina, up until this season, one of the knocks against them is they don't have a game-breaking forward. They've got some good talent, some good skill, and then they get Nikolai Ehlers last year, drug him away from Winnipeg, signed him to an 8-year contract, and you're thinking, okay, is this the game breaker? And then last night against Vegas, puts up 2 goals in the first period. So you do have guys like Ehlers, over 800 games in the NHL that can take over a game and make you kind of think it's not a concern right now because it doesn't have to be.
What do you expect in game 2? I know we're already looking ahead, but it's just tomorrow night. What do you think the rebound looks like, or the momentum capture from Vegas?
We've talked about Vegas. Really, if you want to zero in on their game 2s, it's kind of been their only weakness so far here in the playoffs. Granted, they did go up 2-0 against Colorado. They trailed that game for almost all of it. Carolina rebounded after losing 6-2 to Montreal, but it was kind of a process there, ramping up. 2 straight games they won in overtime to go up 2-1 in that series before they took it 4-1. Hockey is just a sport where it loves to tell you, you know what, you don't know anything about this sport. You don't know anything about it. Are we going to see another 5-4 game? You wouldn't think so, but it honestly wouldn't surprise me. Vegas is high pressure. Carolina is high pressure. After game 1, I wouldn't be surprised. I'd say we're headed towards another 5-4 game more than we're headed towards a 2-1 or 3-2 game, just from the pressure, the skill, and the way that those teams are able to create and force stuff from the defensive end. So I'd say I don't necessarily normally think after a 5-4 game 1 that's going to continue, but as we keep talking and keep breaking things down, I think we might be in store for a couple more of these, especially OC, as you mentioned, the goaltending. 2 guys that you look at them from NHL standards, I don't want to say just okay, but their regular seasons, their track records, pretty average. Carter Hart has been really good, the one playoff run that he did make, but I'd say probably some more high scoring, close games. And as a hockey fan, just rooting for whatever it takes to make this a 7-game series.
Pavel Dorofeev is a restricted free agent coming up, and he has been incredible for Vegas in these playoffs. How much has he increased his value potentially and the market for his services just with this playoff?
The funny thing is we talk about Carolina's top line. His first 2-3 games against Utah were like, where the heck is Pavel Dorofeev? Their 25-year-old homegrown forward. Value is going to be how high Vegas goes to pay him, because we know Vegas, OC, and they are so Vegas in everything that they do. They are old school Vegas. They'll always take their time and make a calculated decision on, because their salary cap is a challenge. They'll find a way to pay him whatever it takes. But yeah, especially now that you've seen him play really in his first full run in the playoffs, you're like, okay, now this guy is a playoff gamer. Plus, how about Brett Howden? We talked about him in the first round. Like, oh, this Brett Howden who got 12 goals in the regular season, all of a sudden pops in 4. He leads the NHL in playoff scoring with 11 goals. Just the third liner who goes out and minds his own business, killing penalties.
Postseason awards starting to be announced. Norris Trophy for the top defenseman in the league goes to Werenski of the Columbus Blue Jackets. Is that the right call in your mind?
He plays so many minutes. We've watched Mikhail Sergachev play so many minutes for Utah, and this year it wasn't what it was in year number one. So he plays lots of minutes. He plays in every situation. He really came into his own last year. It was a career year for him. It really put him on the map. Hasn't made the playoffs in either year, but 81 points in 75 games. It's always interesting, OC, because you get the Norris Award for the best defenseman, and it sometimes seems like the best defenseman who plays offense. He's solid. Is he the best defenseman in the NHL? There's a lot of good ones, and sometimes it's just your turn to win. Remember all those years, the mailman never won MVP, and then all of a sudden wins two. Sometimes it's just your turn to win. The voters come to your side. He does play a lot of minutes. Team's just been okay. They looked like they're going to make the playoffs this year, and that big run when they made that coaching change, and they finished 2-8-1 down the stretch. So would I have voted for him? I can't tell you that I would have.
Other finalists for the award were Cale Makar of the Colorado Avalanche, 79 points this year. And
you saw when he wasn't in the action how Colorado was affected by it in the first two games of the conference finals.
Makar played this year 24, almost 25 minutes a game, whereas Werenski was about 27 minutes a game, just under 27 minutes a game. If that matters to the people out there, Rasmus Dahlin, who is the other finalist, 74 points on the season.
See, that is probably a surprise that Werenski wins it over Dahlin, whose team came out of nowhere, wins the division. He had some personal matters that he went back home to Sweden to attend to with his fiance and her health. That probably would have been my vote, and I'm surprised didn't win.
We talked about the Conn Smythe coming up. Will probably go to Marner if he continues to play the way he's been playing, right?
Oh, absolutely. And much to the chagrin of Toronto, they just can't get over it that he goes to Vegas, and his regular season numbers were down. It was his worst number since his first 2 years, but just the story. I can't take my eyes off of Toronto watching Mitch Marner, but the play he made last night, like at the end, I think it's just kind of a just another story in the playoffs for Vegas and this run that they've been on. And I've always felt like don't discount elite athletes, elite teams, because they're eventually going to push it over the top and take it. And I think Mitch Marner's a guy like that, right? We had it for years with Tampa Bay, with Colorado in the NHL. Are they ever going to push this over? And you have players like it with Mitch Marner, and I think I'd say no question, especially since the two goaltenders kind of blemished their numbers in last night's game with the 9 combined goals. Carolina OC gave up 5 goals last night. They gave up 6 goals to Montreal in game 1. Outside of that, they've allowed 10 goals in 12 games.
That's insane.
In the playoffs. So
All-Star format change announced for 2027. Maybe trying to capture a little bit of that Four Nations magic. It'll be Canada, Finland, Sweden, USA, and a world team doing a 5-minute round-robin tournament, 5-minute games. And then the final top 2 teams on points will play in a all-star final that's 10 minutes long. Do you like it?
Sure. They're trying. They're trying to capitalize on, the funnest 5 minutes for somebody flipping channels, and that's 3-on-3 hockey in the overtimes. So U.S., Canada, Finland, Sweden, and a world team. The 4 nations left some guys out with just 4 nations. So adding a world team, I think, will be a fun part of that, especially with, some Russian guys. There's so many talented Russian players in the NHL who have not been involved in world competition here for the last 3-4 years. And the other fun thing about the All-Star festivities, OC, the skills competition, 10 players, 25 and under, which would it have probably been that? Yeah, but I think specifying it, that really adds some flair to it. And already thinking of, Dylan Gunther and Logan Cooley, hopefully at least one part of that, because we see how fast they are. We see their shots. So maybe for me, if we get a Mammoth player or two at the skills competition, that might be my favorite part of it.
I also expressed earlier in the show, I think it's a good idea for leagues right now. The luster has come off of a traditional all-star game, so mixing in this international flavor is the right way to do it. And
you don't want to lose to Canadians. We don't want to lose to them. the Finns and the Swedes. Oh my goodness.
There was a report, by the way, in Czech media. I don't know if you saw this, a news report that the Czechs, the Finns, and the Swedes would not participate if Russian athletes were allowed to participate. But the organizers were like, no, it's going to be okay. We have not heard that from the hockey federations of Czechia, Finland, or Sweden. So
it seems like that they're trying to kind of massage things, trying to smooth things over to pave the way for Russia returning to that kind of stuff.
We'll see how it plays out. In the meantime, you have plenty of Stanley Cup Finals action to watch. Next game will be tomorrow night, and we'll stay on top of it with Adrian Denny and, of course, our normal coverage right here on ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM, where you can listen to the Stanley Cup Finals and the NBA Finals. Speaking of Game 1 of the NBA Finals tonight, do you have a horse in the race?
I don't, but I'm excited. Two teams that I think are, they play fun basketball. They play good basketball. And, the Spurs, I know, always seem to get that franchise player and circle back. The Knicks, remembering that series back in 99-2000, the Rockets-Knicks series in 94, always seems like when they're involved, you got the Oregon at Madison Square Garden. Feels like a fun final to me. And Wemby, goes without saying, I know you don't bring me on for the NBA, but I kind of like the guy. I just like the competitive juice, the edge that he brings, the fire, not to mention the superhuman things he does.
I think the love affair with Wemby league-wide is going to start wearing off now that he's going to be the guy, competing for and potentially winning championships. I think that here in Salt Lake City, because San Antonio is going to be standing in front of a team that you want to see actually compete, I think the affection for Wemby is going to wear pretty thin pretty quickly. But for now, I can just enjoy what he is as a player.
And looking at the Sacramento Kings situation, dismissing Mike Brown, who's now coaching in the finals, and the trade that they made as well. I kind of like that. Just for another element of fun.
That's Adrian Denny, Mammoth and NHL Insider. Between the Pipes, brought to you by our friends at Aladdin Industries and Valley Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling. All right, we're going to give away some Smashing Pumpkins tickets in about 13 minutes. We have lots left to talk about here on the Sean O'Connell Show. ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. A little correction, a little revision from something yesterday. I told you that Steph Curry's sneaker deal that he signed with Li Ning was reported at $1 billion. That was an incorrect number. It's more like a $400 million deal. So, ha! You're poor, Steph Curry. Weak, pathetic. Only $400 million for your sneaker deal with Li Ning. I'm embarrassed for you.
So it's not that far. I mean, it's significantly higher than than Under Armour, but it's not as significantly higher than his Under Armour deal. Is that what we're saying here?
Basically, yeah.
So I'm just wondering why was that just misinformation or what, or is there other like bonuses or something that make it up?
Well, there's no way he's going to bonus all the way to $1 billion if the base deal is $400 million. But I think it's probably just because remember the initial report on he was flirting with Anta, another Chinese shoe brand, and that was reported at potentially $1 billion deal. So maybe the hashtag sources were just like, well, if he decided to go with Li Ning over that other one, it had to be $1 billion deal. At the end of the day, you're Steph Curry, and you have now it's more like a total of $1 billion on the books from what we've seen from your NBA salary, your Under Armour deal, and now this one. You're just over $1 billion.
Yeah,
you're doing fine. Let me hold a couple bucks for you, Steph Curry.
Yeah, we could. Yeah, let me just keep a couple of those dollars warm for you.
All right. Now let's think about something here from an NBA Finals perspective. I want the Finals Game 1 can be heard right here on ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. I'm thinking of myself as an owner in the league. I'm thinking of myself as Adam Silver. All right. I want what is in the best interest of the overall league right now. Obviously, you want 7 games. You want an incredibly competitive back-and-forth finals. Listening to the Dan Patrick Show this morning, everyone except for Dan picked the Knicks to win it. All the Danettes picked the Knicks to win it. A lot of writers, pundits, etc., are picking the Knicks to win this final. I think there's a bit of a pushback. People are like, we don't want it to be Wemby's time just yet. We want the Knicks to at least get this one. We want New York to have its moment in the sun. It's been since 1973. It's been 27 years since they've even been in a finals. I think there's a lot of like hope for New York to be part of the story, right?
So you're saying, so let me just get this straight. You're saying that all the writers that are, most of them from the Northeast, are hoping that the Knicks win? Interesting.
I think that there's just a lot of wishful thinking, and by the way, the Knicks are very capable of winning. This I think is going to be an incredible series. I think there is right now a little pushback on like we're ready to begin this 22-year-old's ascent to the throne of the NBA.
Yeah, ready to crown him. Yeah,
and the Knicks are an awesome story, right? It's weird because they're the New York Knicks, but the Knicks are they're like more the everyman team when you look at them. It's guys that are on their second or third opportunity with NBA franchises. It's a hodgepodge that has been slapped together, and not everybody believed that it was going to work out. Not everybody believed that the right trades were being made, the right acquisitions were being made. I was one who was like, man, maybe Karl Anthony Towns is just never going to be that great of a winner.
Same. And you've heard me reference Gordy's line about him, a losing game. Well, he's changed that in these playoffs in particular.
And like, Brunson is still pushing back, dealing with people saying like, you're not that guy. You're never going to be that guy. And
they're kind of plucky underdogs, but they're from New York City.
There's no hot take about the San Antonio Spurs, right? It's less fun. It's less problematic. It's less interesting. There's not as many visible warts. The thing with the San Antonio Spurs right now is you're just kind of incredulous. Like, it's happening again. It looks like they've got a generational great again. And by the way, when they had those generational greats before, you know what else they also had? They also had really important and awesome role players to go alongside those guys. And the role players is probably not even the right way to put it. Like, Sean Elliott was much more than a role player. Ginobili was much more than a role player. Tony Parker was much more than a role player. They were never the lead dog on those teams, but right, the accessory pieces were also all-star caliber. While you had David Robinson and while you had Tim Duncan, you also had somebody to put alongside that person that was very capable, had they been on a lesser franchise, of being the alpha dog, of being the lead horse in whatever that race was. And so, like, San Antonio is fun because we get to be in awe of something that, I say it, I overuse the term, but it is truly alien. It is a foreign thing to see somebody that big moving like that, handling the ball like that, having that nice of a shot. And at his age, he has no business being as skilled as he is with all of those physical advantages that could have made him lazy and still made him a great NBA player. So, do you want your biggest market and, quite frankly, your best story to win the NBA Finals if you're Adam Silver, if you're the NBA? If you're all the other owners who don't own either of these teams, do you want the New York Knicks to capitalize? I mean, it's the Mecca. It's the capital. It is New York. It is the number one media market. They have been championship starved in the NBA. Do you want the Knicks to win your biggest story, your biggest franchise, or do you want your biggest star, the star of your future? You want that future to start right now. From an NBA interest standpoint, what is a better outcome for the NBA? New York winning or Victor Wembanyama and, of course, the rest of the Spurs? But it's really about Wemby. Which is better for the NBA?
I mean, I think they can't lose.
It's
right?
Absolutely a win-win. But it's like, do you want chocolate ice cream or vanilla ice cream?
Yeah.
You get ice cream either way. Which one is your favorite?
Yeah, I mean, they might favor a Knicks championship over that for that reason.
Have to.
But I really don't think that that Adam Silver in the league office is going to feel like they lose out on some kind of massive marketing deal if the most unique player in NBA history, who's already 22 and looking like maybe the best player in the league or on the short list of best player in the league, wins his first championship, wins Finals MVP. I'm not sure they feel like that's a loss either.
They definitely don't. They're, like you said, it's a win-win. There's no loss to be found here for the NBA. Whether the Knicks finish out this really cool story or whether Victor Wembanyama climbs to the top of the mountain in year 3, and we think he will remain near the top of that mountain or at the top of that mountain.
Maybe it's another Spurs dynasty led by Wemby. Yeah,
great, but there's also like I'm talking the business mind. I'm talking about
sports business,
the
journal.
Storytelling, right? That comes with both of these things, and honestly, that Victor Wembanyama story, you could tell it next year.
Yeah.
I don't think you can with the Knicks.
No,
I think they've trapped their lightning in a bottle, and it's this right now.
This is the 90. It's ironic that this is the first team since 99 because this feels like the 99 Knicks where it's like, this is your last shot. This is your last shot at doing something great here. But, I mean, it's not like Jalen Brunson's a dinosaur. He's still in his 20s.
No, but
they could get back.
His game and his physical dominance just is not – it's not as universally dominant. It's not like and you're – I'm not – if you're a Knicks fan out there, and there's probably like 3 of them in Utah, shout out to my guy Z. You're probably not listening, but shout out.
They all work here, by the way. Spence, Porter. Moving on.
If you're a Knicks fan – like, you can't look at yourself in the mirror and be like, my team is going to be as good for as long as this San Antonio Spurs team.
No way.
You got to get it. You got to get it now. You got to capture this now. You have to bite down on this opportunity right now. And
it's
weirdly,
90s jazz-ish, too, where it's like jazz.
I'm going to have to dust off the old Patrick Ewing jersey, man.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to, like, as much as I am obsessed with Victor Wembanyama's unique status, and I'm a fan of his approach, his mindset, all that stuff, I'm looking at this Knicks team, and I'm like, we may never pass this way again. I'm not convinced I ever see the Knicks in the finals again, right?
Because Knicks fandom is welling back up inside you a little bit?
It's not, but so in 1999, I was 15 years old. I had not yet had my birthday when the NBA Finals, so I was 15 years old, right? If it takes that long again, I'm going to be in a home.
Yeah.
Or in the dirt. You know what I mean? So, like, I'm not a believer necessarily in the sustainability of what the Knicks have going on. All
Absolutely.
respect to Mike Brown and Cat And Robinson is going to play, it sounds like.
With the brace on his hand, Hacka Mitch should be at an all-time high. He's already a terrible shooter, and now on I think it's his shooting hand, he's going to have a brace because of his surgically repaired pinky.
Is Iman Shumpert wearing holsters? Is he wearing?
I don't know.
I'm sorry. I don't mean to take a television reference aside on radio. It's a bad thing.
Former Nick Iman Shumpert
on the NBA Today set
He's got some kind of suspenders-looking thing at the very least.
They look like suspenders, but they look like shoulder holsters.
There's your girl, Chanae.
My girl, Chanae. Chanae, what is up?
So let me give you a wild stat. You just referenced how old you were 27 years ago in 1999.
Uh-huh.
And now everyone knows your age. There you go. You're welcome.
Fine. I'll be 43 this year.
So I started with the conference finals. I started giving some matchup notes, like when these last two teams faced off. We know about that already with these two teams. At part of this, I was like, okay, who was on the team when they last faced off? Obviously, no one on either team. Who was in the NBA when they last faced off? In this case, again, nobody. How old do you think the oldest player in this series was in 1999?
The oldest player in the series in 1999.
That's on either the Spurs or the Knicks. And bonus if you can guess who that player is.
I'm not going to be able to. Like 5 years old?
Mason Plumlee was 9.
Okay. Wow, Mason Plumlee.
Yeah, he was born in 1990. So he was 9 years old. Hadn't yet had his – I guess he had his 9th birthday. Jordan Clarkson is the oldest player on the Knicks. He was 7. Jordan Clarkson is a few months younger than me, incidentally.
Okay, Clarkson
so I was also 7.
I was not factoring in Mason Plumlee being older than Clarkson. Clarkson would have been my guess as the oldest player in the series.
Okay, Jalen Brunson younger than those two. How old do you think Jalen Brunson was? He was alive.
Okay, he's
Rick Brunson. His dad was on the team, by the way. He was on the Knicks.
Okay, hold on. Jalen Brunson would have been 2?
He was 2.
Yeah.
He was in his 3rd year, so he had his birthday later that year. Born in 96. So he was 2. Wemby was not born.
Correct.
Okay. He was born in 2004. So Wemby was born 4.5 years after this series was played. That's how long ago it was, OC. 27 years. LeBron was not in the NBA yet, and it seems like he's been in the NBA for 30 years.
It has not happened to you yet, James, but there will be a time in your sports observation and fandom that guys that are Victor Wembanyama, like the best players in the world, or people who are among the best players in the world, will have been born after you graduated from high school, and you're just going to be like, yep, I'm old now. Yeah. I'm an old sports fan now.
Yep.
It's tough when you realize that you're older than all the guys, even the old guys in the leagues. When you're older than all of them, you're just like, oh, man. At one time, I was rooting for at least some people who were older than me. Now they're all younger than me. That's a milestone as you age as a sports fan. And then even further down the line, oh, these guys were all born after I graduated high school, after I was in college, maybe after I graduated college.
Yeah.
Yikes.
It is yikes. Do you have a prediction?
I actually think San Antonio is going to win this series. Yeah. I think that it's probably going to be a 6 or 7 gamer. I think that it's going to be a good one. I think we're going to have a lot to talk about. I think that we're going to get a little heat, a little venom, a little back and forth. I think the personalities of both of these teams.
Stephon Castle he's a fiery dude.
I love that.
He's going to get in the middle of something.
He's going to try to be shutting down the Knicks' best player.
Yeah.
I think there's going to be some good stuff that happens in this series, but I think that after I spent 15 minutes telling you that it's better for the league, it's better for maybe all of us if we make Victor Wembanyama wait one more year. I still think that San Antonio is going to win.
Yeah, I have the Spurs in 7. My mind tells me 6 because I think that they are. I say clearly the better team, but not when I say clearly, I don't think there's a Grand Canyon size gap between these two teams. I still think it's pretty clear that the Spurs are better, though. So my mind is telling me it should be 6, but for some reason I'm like, something in the back of my head's going, or in my gut is telling me this might go the distance. So I'm gonna officially on record say it's gonna be a 7-game series. Spurs win in San Antonio, Game 7.
All right, we'll give away some Smashing Pumpkins tickets next. Do a little crosstalk with Spence. It's the Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. Smashing Pumpkins tickets to give away here at 877-353-0700. They're coming in October on the 29th to the Delta Center. Who scored the game-winning goal for the Las Vegas Golden Knights in Game 1 of the Stanley Cup Final last night? 877-353-0700. 2 tickets to Smashing Pumpkins if you can answer that question properly. Final segment of the show, Crosstalk, brought to you by Advanced Window Products, 801-850-9100. $2,500 off 10 windows or more. Get on the schedule right now. Beautify your home, increase the resale value of your home, increase the energy efficiency of your home with lifetime warranted windows, manufactured, installed, handled right here in Utah from Advanced Window Products, advancedwindows.com. The Drive with Spence Checketts is next, and Spencer Checketts is right here in our Broadway studio. Hi.
May I ask you a non-sports related question?
Yes.
For Crosstalk today?
Okay.
Got into a random debate with a friend. What's
Okay.
the worst job that you've ever had?
The worst job I've ever had.
It can be hardest. It can be didn't make money, boring, whatever it is. The worst job when you were younger, right out of school, or maybe you just won $1 million fighting and you just did nothing. You didn't have to do anything.
Yeah, I woke up with a silver spoon and then won $1 million bucks.
Everyone knows about the dynamic in the studio between you and me and Silver Spoon, Sean.
Yeah.
Everyone knows that it's you. Come on.
Okay, yes, that's perfect. The worst job I ever had was my first, actual getting a tax return job.
Mm-hmm.
I worked at the Hoagie Yogi Teriyaki Sticks in Draper.
Those things never lasted anywhere. They always popped up, and then within a year, they were gone.
And I'll tell you that I somehow, shout out to Russ Cherry if you're out there. Thanks for giving me my first job.
What's up, Russ?
I somehow got stuck working on the hibachi grill behind. I'm 16 years old.
Uh-huh.
And just a sweaty mess, and this is why it was the worst job, because the uniform T-shirt was gray, and I had dinner plate pit stains every single day, and all the cute girls from Alta High School would be coming in to get some froyo or to be getting a sandwich or to be getting some teriyaki or whatever, and I would be what can I get for you? Just with
Stains.
unconcealable sweat ring
dear.
around the neck and in the pits, man. Oh, it was terrible.
Alta had some rockets, man. Alta High, they do well.
Yes.
That's the wrong area to be working hard in a
Yes.
restaurant in.
It was terrible.
Yeah, we were debating this. It's funny, and maybe you can relate. None of my friends have jobs or professions in the industry that they studied. As far as the degrees outside of the lawyer, I've got a buddy who's a dermatologist, a buddy who's a dentist, a buddy who's a lawyer. Unless you went to law school or medical school, none of us are working in the areas which we studied in school. So we're just debating this worst job that you ever had. Can I lay mine on you?
Yeah, would you?
It's hard to top. You ready for it?
Yeah. I was a caddy for Michael Jordan.
No, that's Porter. Literally was that, by the way.
Yeah,
Porter has a Michael Jordan caddy story. Did you ever watch the sitcom Silver Spoon with Ricky Schroeder?
No.
Okay. Well, he had a train where he rode the train inside around the Christmas tree.
Okay.
There might be a video of me doing that at his age because we were talking about the Silver Spoon dynamic.
Okay.
Anyway.
That's terrible.
In the summer between my sophomore and junior year in college, I had a very uninspiring semester.
Okay.
Meaning I did not attend a class.
Okay, wow.
Not one.
Not one?
I went to the first couple of days, went to all the classes. Then I was like, you know what? I'm chilling. I'm good all semester. So there was a deal in place where I would have help with the tuition, but I would have to send in my grades. Be like, okay, we'll help you out. So my parents were like, hey, we haven't seen your grades yet for this semester, and tuition is due. And I was like, all right, send them over, all E's. Not one. And they were so confused. There's no C's here or B's or A, there are no grades. Is this indicating that you did not?
Is this E for excellent? What is this?
I think E's back then, this was the 90s, just indicated we don't know that this guy is real. He registered, and we didn't see him.
He might be dead.
Right. So anyway, they're like, we're not paying for this, nor should they have. It was a completely reasonable response. I had to come up with like $4 or $5 grand to get back into school.
Okay.
So my friend, he's still my friend, believe it or not, sold me a bill of goods that if I decided to take a job with him selling living scripture videos to the good people of the greater Michigan area, I'd come home with like 20 grand.
Wow.
3 months on the road selling living scripture videos to the good people of the greater Michigan area, which I gained a lot of respect for.
You were a sales bro.
Bro, I lived out of my car for 3 months because he lied to us. And Jason, if you're listening, I hate you. Because he was our manager, and he sold us this thing. He's like, I'm going to get us this apartment. We're going to live together, and we have all these referrals, and it's going to be awesome. We're going to go hang out, have a great summer. We get to Dearborn, Michigan, and we're like, where's the apartment? He's like scrambling to try to explain that there isn't one. So we have no place to sleep. The reality of the situation was we were going to be living in our cars for the majority of this experience, which we did. If you wanted a shower, you roll to the grocery store, you get a gallon of water, pour it all over yourself, boom. Couple Whoppers in the morning, $1 Whoppers, get 2 of them, you're full the rest of the day.
The 2-for-2 Whopper deal back in those days was legendary.
Kept you full. So we're all flat-ass broke, and we're there because we need money. And so for 3.5 months, we would get referrals from folks in the ward, knock on the door, and sell them living scripture VHS tapes to teach their children scripture stories. 3.5 months, living out of your car. We occasionally would be able to find like a cheap motel to split, and usually one dude on the bed, couple dudes on the floor. You know, 8 Mile, Eminem, famous? Yeah. We stayed on 6 Mile, no joke. Rundown motel, TV, 2 channels. Local news, hardcore porn. I'm dead serious. Like stuff I had never seen before. I'm like, what are we doing? Turn it back to the news, you pervert. 2 channels.
You didn't say turn it back to the news.
Well, I mean, we would take turns taking walks.
Yeah,
anyway,
exactly.
Anyway,
all right.
The front clerk got stabbed. No joke. And yeah, that was non sequitur side story. Okay, so
wait, did you make the money you needed?
I came home with a little. I came home with enough to get back into school.
Okay, good.
But it was not worth it. Okay, it was not worth it. He said 20 grand. It was not that. It was enough to get back into school, then enough to live a semester, and then later on enough to buy a wedding ring I wasn't planning on buying. Anyway, back to this side story. So my parents really had no idea how dire these circumstances were.
Of course.
They just knew that I was working in summer sales like you do when I think I was 19 or 20 years old. So my dad calls, and he said, hey, we're flying into Bloomfield Hills is the nice area right outside of Detroit. It's where all the athletes live. We're flying into Bloomfield Hills, because we're going to pitch Grant Hill to sign with the Knicks. He's a free agent. So I'm flying in with Jeff Van Gundy, Ernie Grunfeld, and then it was a bunch of like celebrities. He's like, so we'd love to see you. We'd love to see you.
Come pick me up on 6 Mile at McStabby Motel.
So I had this rundown old Tahoe because our cars were our homes.
Yeah.
So he's like, we're just flying in and out. So I'm just going to have a quick opportunity to say hello. So here's the address. We're meeting Grant Hill at this house. Just come by and say hi. And I'm like, I don't think he's aware that I'm about to drive to an exit interview with Grant Hill with Jeff Van Gundy and my father and all these New York celebrities having just flown in on a private jet in this rundown Tahoe with all of my clothes and Burger King wrappers having just tried to peddle freaking living scripture videos to the greater Dearborn area.
Did Grant Hill buy any living scripture videos?
See, I needed you by my side. I didn't even get to pitch them.
Dang.
Because I could have had Grant just buy all of them and go home. So I drive up this mansion, and my dad and Jeff Van Gundy, and Jeff's like, Spence, what are you doing here? I'm like, oh, I'm working for the summer. I didn't want to admit anything. And my dad looks in my car. He's like, what What's going on with? I'm living in the car selling living scripture videos this summer. Anyway, safe flight home on the private jet after pitching Grant Hill, and I'll see you in about 2.5 months.
You know what my favorite part of that whole story was? This was in Dearborn, Michigan.
Well, it was the greater Michigan area. We were all over the place. Your favorite part of the story was the TV.
No, my favorite part of the story was when you said Dearborn, Michigan, because, fun fact, living scripture videos, Mormon videos,
Indeed.
could not possibly sell anywhere in America worse than they would sell in Dearborn, Michigan. It is the #1 Muslim population city in the United States of America, the highest density of non-Christian Americans in our great nation in Dearborn, Michigan, and that's where you were selling living scripture videos. I love everything about that story, and that is character building, ladies and gentlemen. Do it for your kids when they fail out of college. Make them go sell living scripture videos and live in janky motels.
Stay in school, kids.
That's
Fun
the moral of the
fact.
story.
Fun fact, I grew up on living scripture videos, so someone maybe that you knew sold them to my parents.
Well, that explains a lot because those things are not scripturally accurate at all. Like I even knew enough to, like, while we were getting trained, I'm like, dude, Lehigh never said that. What are we doing?
Yeah.
Like, and they took some liberties for the sake of entertainment. But whenever we would find an LDS church member, it was like a pot of gold.
Oh, yeah.
Because you get the award list and the referral, then suddenly you actually can go to the right houses instead of knocking on random doors and being like, hey, you're not by chance interested in Book of Mormon scripture cartoon videos, are you? We weren't even selling the religion, dude.
No, and
You think missionaries sounded tough?
I was also in college. I had some friends try to recruit me to do the same thing, and I said, no, I'm good. I don't want to do this sales pro.
Smarter than I am. And again, Jason, if you're listening, because he made commission off of all of us.
I just love that instead of selling security systems or solar or pest control or all the many things that are actually lucrative sales bro, medical device sales, all of these things, Spence, you would have excelled in all of those areas. And instead, the most square peg in a round hole fit for Spence Checketts to be selling.
I was sold
incredible.
a bill of goods by someone who's supposed to be my friend. And then we get home and he buys this brand new Tacoma truck with all of his commissions.
Yeah. Shout out to the friend.
No, we hate you, Jason.
Shout out to the friend.
I hate you, Jason.
Your exploitation of spoiled kid labor.
Anyway, I always feel like whenever the conversation pops up, what was the worst job you ever had? I don't think anyone can top mine.
You one-upped me significantly.
Yeah. How was Hoagie Yogi, bro? At least you got to go home.
Not too bad.
Did Jeff Van Gundy have a comment about your car?
He just didn't know. He's like, what are you doing here? And I was so embarrassed. I'm like, I'm just working here for the summer. It was my dad who walked over and saw the car and was like, are you going to make it out alive here? It's ridiculous.
Oh, that's wonderful. Stay tuned for more of that on the drive. Thanks for listening to the Sean O'Connell Show, ESPN 7.